People who professionally do things like sales phone calls, and they do cold calling, or they do things like, cold approaching and meeting people socially from cold approach, over time, if those people tend to do that for a long period of time, tend to become psychotically efficient at what it is that they're doing. And it happens because it's a natural progression that you'll get to, because over time you see where you're wasting your time. So for example, if you're somebody who does cold calls, right? You've now talked to so many people who are like, oh yeah, I'll call you back, I'll get the thing, and and then they never call you back, and you just see how much of your time is getting wasted. And then and you're literally working for, and here's the power of it, if you didn't make that sale, you now worked for $0, okay? You're literally working for $0. Say that you're a phone commission only. Imagine that you're working for $0. What do you think that does to somebody's brain if they're working for $0 if they fail to be efficient and effective? What do you think it does? I mean, it definitely gets you thinking about where your time is going. It shows you the value of your time because you could have made more phone calls with that. You start valuing your time more. Well, the same thing happens when you are getting better at meeting people socially, right? Like, you'll go out, you'll be talking to somebody, and you'll see your time getting burned down. You're like, okay, so I sat here entertaining you like a dancing monkey for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and like, this was fun, and I did get value from this, but it didn't go anywhere. And then you wind up seeing them connecting with somebody who doesn't have half the value that could be added to their life that you do. So literally, but because that person learned how to be efficient and you didn't, then you see them winding up with somebody who wouldn't bring half to the table that you would have brought for them, not even 5% what you would have brought for them. And then what winds up happening is you start to become more efficient. You just start getting very, very efficient with how you're using your time, and you start seeing it differently. When you're working a by-the-hour job, you're not as likely to see it like that. If anything, when you work a by-the-hour job, what winds up happening is you learn how to disassociate and space out, so the time will go by so that you can go home and do what it is that you really want to do and eventually get your check. But when you don't get a check, you don't have a check except for how well you use your time. You become, people that I've seen that run these like multi-million-dollar businesses that pay me for one-on-one coaching, because they're very, very successful. A lot of them actually came from being phone salespeople when they're younger, and they just became very, very, very efficient from that. So in the same way, when I'm going out socializing, you have to understand that it's like nothing can make it real to any of you what 20 years of doing that looks like. I can say 20 years, you're like, oh, 20 years, like he's like the guy that teaches that, cool, it's 20 years. You're not understanding, like, that's not real to you what 20 years, like many of you guys are like not even 40 years old yet, and you basically only hit adulthood around 20. So you don't even know what 20 years even looks like, or so much of this for me is just Groundhog's Day. It's just this repeated pattern of Groundhog's Day. And you start to realize that in life, unless something is actually moving the ball down the field in some meaningful way, it's just a waste of your time, right? Like, think of it, like, by the time that you're my age, the biggest regret that you have is all these like random conversations that you had that just didn't go anywhere. Like you'll start to notice this, like with really high level people, by the time they're 45 or 50, you go talk to them, they'll look at you in the eye, and it's like they see right through your BS, they see right through your fakeness, your insecurities, your fronts, the way you're trying to project yourself. They see you for exactly what you are, and they know exactly how you can add value or subtract value from their life. They've had enough people that came in and initially added value on the front end and took value on the back end. By the time that you're in your 40s or 50s, you begin to see the pattern of that, and you start to see like the larger calculus of life. And so you go into a situation and you're like, like in sales, they call it prospects or suspects. Say that, prospects or suspects. Prospects. Yeah, so like suspects is just people that are wasting your time. They want it, they're like, a lot of them are like natural value leeches. They don't believe in reciprocity. They don't understand reciprocity. Like they go into it, like, for example, they'll go into a situation wanting to learn about social skills, where they're like, oh, how do I learn the secret trick to get better socially? But they don't understand the secret trick to learn to get better socially is to add value to people. So then they'll come up to you and they'll try to like leech off of you to learn how to get better socially. But then you have this weird thing as a teacher of this where you're like, if I enable them to do this, then what winds up happening is they're going to become worse. Like if I actually sit there with them patiently, answering all their questions and showing them what they want, and they're in a value leech mode, it's going to make them worse. Okay, a simple example was, this guy hit me up on, it was on Instagram, and he was like, hey, I want to take a bunch of programs with you. Can you give me a call? If that guy is willing to like sign up right now for a bunch of programs, it's a short, quick call, I'll do a quick phone call. So I called the guy up. So he sits there and he starts kind of going off on like all these different goals and dreams that he has. I'm like, okay. I'm like, okay, if he wants to tell me about this before signing up, that's fine. Normally I have a 20-person sales team that would normally be handling phone calls like this, right? But I'm like, if he says he's ready to go right now, he just needs a quick call, 2-3 minutes of my time, I appreciate that, I'll give you a quick call. So he starts going on about his thing. So I said, okay, so now all of a sudden, again, prospects versus suspects, I can feel that this is somebody who's in a value taker kind of mode. I can feel it. I feel it in my sixth sense. So I said, hey, brother, I said, this is really cool. I'd love to hear about this on the program. What's going on here? And he goes, oh, I was thinking of actually doing one of those free ones. And I said, okay. I said, so out of curiosity, what do you need to call me for? He's like, oh, you can tell me like where to sign up for it. Okay. Now look, that's okay. Like, look, he's trying to learn. He wants to give me his time. I appreciate it. But at the same time, if you look at where he's coming from, so what I said to him, and now what's crazy about this, what I'll tell you is so funny, okay? So people in that paradigm are dumb enough to believe that there's this magical source of energy in for them that doesn't require energy out. Okay, they're dumb enough to believe that there's this like fountain of endless energy that exists where you just suck all the energy out of it, but you don't put anything back into it, right? It's almost like how a communist thinks. Yeah. You just suck out, but there's not an exchange. They don't understand like anybody who says things like, I don't care about money at all, they're basically saying like, I don't believe in the laws of physics. Like, I don't believe in the laws of the universe. I believe that there's this like endless energy thing that I just suck off of and I don't give anything back to. I don't have any mutual reciprocity or exchange with. So he says that. So now what's funny is I feel so bad for this guy that I want to tell him the truth. But if I tell him the truth, in his paradigm, he thinks, now, if I'm running an 8-figure business, okay, let's look at it, use of my time. If I'm running an 8-figure business, let's say that we're doing over $1 million a month in sales. Let's say that I'm responsible for over $500,000 a month in sales that I've got to drive. If in a given day, what do I need to produce in a given day? What is my run rate of what I need to produce through my behavior in a 30-day month if I'm responsible for $500K a month in sales? What do I need to produce in a given day? Stop and think about this.
Like 15,000?
Okay, do the math. Look up 500K and then divide 30 in that, okay? And do the math on this, okay? But here's what this guy can't mentally process. He can't process this in his mind, okay? What's that?
About 18,000.
So 18 times 30 is 500K, is that correct?
Yeah.
What's that,
16, 18, okay?
16.6.
So in his mind, okay, now keep in mind that even if I make an 18K sale, right? Oh, you did your work for the day. Is that true that I did my work for the day? So is it really true that I did my work for the day if I made 18K? That's just run rate. That's not growing systems or building anything, right? So in his mind, if I tell him the truth, he's gonna think that I need his little drop in the bucket. He'll think that because somebody in that mode believes that they have what's called grandiosity, and they believe that I care about that. Like if say I post this as a video, there's people at a low level that will have grandiosity bias that are like, no, even the video is a trick to get me, to get my $100. Like they think this, like it's like all a trick to get them, right? It's a way to increase, it's a grandiosity filter for people that are insecure. So people that are unimportant can feel grandiose by feeling that people have to take their resources. So then what winds up happening is it's this thing where I want to tell him the truth, but if I tell him the truth, he's going to think that it's like a trick to get money from him. So it won't even work. Now, here's the truth that I want to tell him, okay? The truth that I want to tell him is this. If you could have looked up where the free event is without DMing me, why did you need to DM me? Why did you feel the need to have, somebody personally go and do this for you? Why did you feel the need to take away my time and do that? But see, the thing is that if I say that to him, what do I look like? I look like I'm a dick. But what is the thing that he most needs to hear to fix his problem? Right? He needs to hear that. But if I tell him that, then he's like, this guy just scolded me. Who do you think you are anyway? You think you're so great? Like, and it's like, and you're just trying to get my money. So it's like this grandiose wall that you can't penetrate. But the thing that he needs to hear, like when you meet, if you're coming to me for help with social skills, the primary thing that works in social skills is that people feel energy coming out of you. They feel you as a value giver, that you don't need them for validation. You're not trying to get their validation. You're not in scarcity. You're self-amused and energy just flowing out as an excess. And then that makes people attracted to you, which then you put a boundary on it. And then if they'll hop through that hoop in the boundary, that generates attraction. It's the tension between, attraction is caused by this tension between values out. They like the value. There's a boundary to get more of the value. And then in the hopping of that boundary to get more of the value, they invest, which then people value what they invest in, and that creates chemistry. So they're not, but if I explain this to him, that, brother, the mere fact that he's thinking, if I could call Owen and trick him into a free phone call, I could get the secret trick. I get the secret trick. I could stay as a leech. I could be this this time-wasting, value-sucking parasite, but all these people are going to take me on a date. Yeah.
I'm really impressed that you can deal with stuff like this on day-to-day and still be ridiculously compassionate towards everyone.
Where
does that come from? Because people will sometimes ask questions, like online and in person, and you've just been ridiculously patient.
Well, thank you. I like that. Thank you. It made it all worth it. So thanks for saying that. But what it is like, what happens, this is what people at that level don't understand. The people at a higher level look at this, and they're just like, this is incorrigible. You can't fix it, so they give up on you, okay? And then what happens is that, because it's similar, I remember one time this is a sad story, but I was in maybe Charlotte, it was maybe Charlotte or something, wherever I was. And there was a heroin addict on the street, and he came up and talked to me, and he was trying to get money out of me to go get heroin. So I sat there with him for about half an hour trying to pep talk him into coming to the event that I was doing that weekend. I was going to comp him because he's a heroin addict. So I sat there with him for half an hour to an hour trying to pep talk him into coming. So he sits there with me, and he's talking, and he sounds like he's enthusiastic to come to the event. But really what he wants is some money for heroin. So I believe in my mind that I've got him fired up to come to this event. Like he's going to change his whole, this is incredibly naive. But anyway, so I'm all fired up, like thinking in the moment in my grandiosity, I suppose, that this guy's going to come, right? So what happens is that I get him fired up. He writes down the address. He makes the plan to come. I help him work through the whole plan to come. I spend a lot of time on this. And then later he's like, well, anyway, can I have the $5? And I'm like, bro, is this not more valuable? And he's like, just give me the $5, come on. And I realized at that point, he's not going to come to the event. He wants the $5 for heroin. And literally, he's a human, and I want to help him as a fellow human being. But he's not a human in the sense of how I think of as a human, in the sense that when I'm talking to this person, that it's a genuine conversation, and that what they're saying is like a conscious being who's formulating their thoughts, and then when they speak, it's stemming from some formulated thoughts of someone who's conscious. What I'm seeing is this sort of proto-organism thing that's like, in the same way that a wild animal can, runs around and kind of hunts and does what it does, the person is able to formulate words out of their mouth, but it's just like parts of the brain that are running, but there's not any free will or consciousness, or you might call it prefrontal cortex. I'm not sure what you'd call it, but I'm not an expert in that. But there's parts of the brain that aren't running, so it's like their mouth is moving in the same way that, say, a bear could break into a garbage can and eat the food. Their mouth is just moving, but there's nobody home behind the words. It's like, oh yeah, sure, I'll definitely come to your event. Oh, that sounds really good. I'm going to clean up and get off heroin. This sounds really good. But there's nobody there actually saying it, okay? Now, to explain this a little bit more deeply.
Did you give him the $5?
I actually don't remember. I hope I didn't, but knowing me, I'm a sucker and probably did. But I hope I didn't, but I probably did. But did that help him? No. It's just enabling him, okay? There's a saying they say, don't give spare change, give real change. So yeah, so the thing is, look, that's a matter of opinion, and that's a personal opinion, and I've given to the homeless as well. But I don't fancy myself as having changed anything by doing that. It's like this temporary little bit of relief. It's not. And again, you remember what I said is as you get older, you start to recognize all these worthless conversations that you had that didn't move the ball down the field. Like how many parties have I been to where like I'm talking with somebody and we're like we're kind of quasi networking and maybe talking about doing something together, but like it just never happens. Then I forget who they were, they forget who I was. It gets erased from both of our minds. Nothing came of it. It didn't enhance the quality of life, the consciousness, or anything for either of us. At best, we might have cracked some jokes, which I think has value, but that's about it. So there's just, and it's like you get older and you see so many of these conversations. And at least when you're younger, you're kind of gaining social skill from talking to that person. But once you've been through that process and you already know how to talk to people, you're like, well, there's nothing coming from this. It's like a bunch of, like flailing around. It's this flurry of activity where nothing comes from it. Okay, a movie that I've mentioned in my talks a couple times is called. It's the one with the new one with Robert De Niro with Martin Scorsese, The Irishman, and this was this like super fascinating movie because the movie basically shows Robert De Niro as this kind of hitman thug. I don't know exactly what you describe him as. And he works for Jimmy Hoffa, and he works for this guy called Buffalino, who's a crime family boss. And there's this huge flurry of activity, all this drama, different things happen. And then at the end of his life, his daughter won't talk to him. He lives in an old person's home. Buffalino is dead. Hoffa is dead. So these people that he was loyal to are dead, and it amounted to nothing. And they actually show, first time ever in a movie that I've seen, they show a final entire hour just showing how boring his life is and how pointless the whole thing was. And you just watch it for an hour. It's just an hour of nothing. It's 2 hours of this like big flurry of activity and then a final hour where just nothing happens. And the message being, and I guess Scorsese wanted to do this as like a swan song, is he's getting up there, and this is his last couple of movies he'll probably do. Who knows, but he's getting up there for sure. And so what happens is you just realize like there's this flurry of activity, all this stuff happens, and it amounts to nothing. It just doesn't amount to anything. It's like different instructors that I trained who like I put a huge amount of work into them to like build up their brand and stuff like that, and then they kind of just like stopped before they ever got started. And I'm like, wow, that's like 2 years that I just invested into somebody that like I kind of like entertained them, I guess. Like I taught them some coaching skills that they'll never really use. They're not really going to build a brand, and it was just kind of pointless. Or like romantic relationships that you have where you have all these like different like arguments, and then you try to get on the same page, and there's drama, and like in the end like no kids come out of it, nothing really does come out of it. They leave kind of bitter. And so and then whatever good memories that you do have are like to some extent tainted. If you're smart, you can kind of parse that out and take the good, and I've learned to do that. But it's like, well, what was the point of all this? Like, what was like all the like 3 years of like 5 years of conversations and this and that and the other thing, and there's nothing came of it, And so, and maybe you make some attempt to kind of derive something out of it, but they may not be able to do that. Some of my exes, like I'm actually still friends with. We can reminisce about good times and things like that, and we genuinely have a real friendship. And we don't hook up again, even though we could, but I don't. But other ones they just go off into the ether. It's just like there's a song like now you're just somebody that I used to know. You ever heard that song, right? And it's like and then it's like this weird thing. Like say that they died in a car accident. Like are you allowed to go to their funeral? Like that's kind of a weird question, right? Like I have exes that like I was with for years, like. And they got a new guy now. Like, say they die in a car accident. Like, am I allowed to show up at their funeral? Like, but that's kind of weird, right?
Well,
right?
Women like crying at some guy's funeral, but like she was just like a side piece.
Well, there you go. I could be the side piece. So it's it's one of these things where like, but I probably wouldn't go, to be honest, because I don't need the dude who was with the person at the time to be like, what's he doing? I don't need to cause that kind of a problem. But that's kind of a weird thing. So when you look at this stuff, it's you start to say like if I could redo some of those relationships that I had that just went nowhere, the big redo that I do, believe it or not, right? Like if you were to ask them, like what would you tell Owen to do different? They'd be like, he should listen more, and like maybe time to like really deeply see me and like my deepest intimacy and authenticity and blah blah, and like all the stuff they watch on TikTok. And like to be honest, like I get what I have really thought about like that way of thinking, and like I've really given like a lot of consideration to that, like really give it an empathetic due consideration to that way of thinking. And in the end, and I hate, and I know this makes me sound really immature and really surface level, but you know what I would do if I could do over? I wouldn't like try to see them in their most naked authenticity and be more, no. I would have just had more sex.
Just try to enjoy it.
Yeah, I would have just had sex more. Ignored what they say more, tuned them out, listened less, and partied. I could genuinely say like my greatest regret with every ex I ever have is like I listened too much. didn't party as much, would have had more sex, would have ignored them more, would have paid less attention to what they say, would have faked listening. I should have done more fake listening. Just like, wow, that's pretty. Sounds pretty tough. Anyway, right? I wish I would have done more of that. Now, if you ask them, that is what you did. I'd be like, but not enough. So, and the reason why is because in the end, what you realize that even these people that say this whole, there's a whole TikTok ideology, like I need to be seen and feel safe. And it's but it's really somebody who with their next partner is also going to be in a permanent state of grievance as well. Because at the end of the day, if you can't enjoy a fun life, it's not because of these esoteric grand things that you learn on TikTok. It's just because you're a complainer. It's not super complicated. It's not this complicated formula. It's no. You know how there's a homeless guy on the street that just likes to complain that the government's spying on him, and they're not, because he's crazy? You're a lesser version of that. You're just a lesser version of the guy who wants meth. That's it. But you're fairly attractive. You have a lot of good sides. And if I could do it again, I would have tuned out the bad side, let in the good side, and enjoy myself. That's my regret. Now, when I say this is pretty controversial stuff. There's a lot of people that would be mad. They would be infuriated. They'd be infuriated to hear me say it, and more infuriated to hear me say it in front of a group of people I could be influencing.
Why is that?
They'd say, you're influencing them not to listen to their partner. But, and I think that if you should definitely consider that I might be saying that, and that perhaps what I'm saying is really destructive, perhaps. But I'm just giving my honest opinion that I think a complainer is a complainer is a complainer is a complainer. And there's certain people that are going to be happy. They're just going to be happy. They're just going to enjoy, right? It's because I have dated people, even since those relationships, where we never had a single argument. There was no BS. I didn't happen to marry them, but we just had a lot of fun. And I was closer to marrying somebody like that because we had a lot of fun. But just because someone has a lot of fun, that's not the only thing. There's other things too. Maybe that stuff wasn't there, but I certainly got me way closer to it. So I guess what I'm saying is, as you get older, there's a certain maturity in realizing. You want to know what the kind of deep spiritual thing to do here is? The deeply spiritual move, the more spiritually elevated move would be to tune this person out and have sex. And that is a profoundly spiritual move. Now, when you hear this again, this is really, really controversial stuff. Maybe when I'm 89, I'll come back and say, I want to do an update of that video that I did when I'm 43. I should have just listened to the complaining and seen them and been intimate and made them feel more safe. Maybe I'll say that when I'm 89. But maybe what I'll say when I'm 89 is, man, my life's almost done, and I wish I would have had more of a party. You know what I'm saying, right? And so that's what you start, when you start to hit your middle age, you start to see all this BS that you wasted your time on, that just, it's this flurry of activity that went nowhere. And you start to recognize the time wasters. Again, prospects versus suspects. You start to see the prospects versus suspects. And it's basically there's some people that are an outflow of energy that energize other people. And there's some people that are black holes and just take in energy. And you'll see it by the end of it where you'll know when those relationships split apart. And you'll see, one partner, their business triples in revenue, they just laugh all day, they have fun all day, and the other one just now smokes weed all day and is a wreck because they can't even emotionally regulate themselves, and so now they have to get high all the time. And you'll just see this sort of stuff that happens, and the proof is in the pudding with what you see happen afterwards. And you also see it by who often tries to take responsibility, right? The person who's often, the weaker one has to blame you. Whereas the person who is no, let me look at myself. I really will sit there and think for months, was I not intimate enough? Did I not pay enough attention? I'll spend months thinking about this because I want to be better. But then in the end, after going through this loop for months and months and months, I'm just maybe it's just the simplest answer. It's just someone that likes to complain. And so these are things, again, prospects versus suspects. There's some people that it doesn't matter how physically attractive they are. If you date them and they're just a nonstop complainer, it's going to suck the life out of you. Whatever joy that you derive from hooking up is not going to amount to whatever, they will get that back out of you, right? Maybe you had 20 minutes of joy or an hour of joy hooking up, but they will get that back out of you. And when it's somebody who you're really emotionally open to, they will find a way to take it back out of you. That's why what you realize later is you're like, oh, I should have not been emotionally open. Although ironically, the same person that wants to do that will try to always bait you to be emotionally open. The people that are trying to say, be more open, be more vulnerable, if they're coming from a state of high negativity, why are they saying to be more open, be more vulnerable? Why are they saying that? Because they want you to open up more to vomit more into you, right? It's like a bird vomiting in your freaking mouth. You know, it's like, open more, open, blah! They just like shoot it in you so they can just annihilate you. So it's one of these things where prospects, okay, this is heavy stuff, right? Prospects versus suspects. Is this somebody who is a value adder or a value taker? That person who's like, hey, like, nice that I'm getting like my, like, and you could see, because I could see he was a suspect immediately when he starts going into this lengthy articulation of everything on his mind, and I could feel the value take vibe off of it. I could feel like this is kind of like what you do, right? And that would be okay if the guy's looking to sign up for something, but I'm like, this is what you do. And he has this belief that there's these like magical famous people that are gonna call, it's grandiosity to the max, right? They're gonna call him up and they're gonna sit there talking about all his issues all day long. But again, like you just do the simple math on that. How do you run a business and operate it if you just call people all day to sign them up? Like you spend 3 hours a day signing people up for free events. Like, tell me more. Oh yeah, I'm really excited to meet you and have you further suck off of me at the free thing. Like, you know, right? Like, this sounds great. You know, I'll do 3 more of these today, and I won't be able to pay for the hotel room by the time the free thing happens, but hey, at least we got to have a nice chat. That was cool, right?
It tells
Now,
you a lot about their lack of awareness when you consider the fact that a lot of these people behaving this way have watched several of your videos and you've said.
yeah, what he's saying, guys, is that I've said this over and over in videos, and then they still don't get it because in that paradigm, they're not hearing it. It's like a proto-humanoid watching. Yeah, they're only hearing what they can want to hear. So it's a lot of these are also the guys that want a lot of routines, right? They don't want to change their paradigm. They just want this very technical, paint by numbers kind of thing. So they can stay in the value leech paradigm. Quick question.
Yeah, could you talk about cluster B personality?
So that's the kind of thing that I'm getting at, right? Like so, and this is genuinely to help. What you're saying is sort of related to what I'm saying, but it's also like not on the track of what I'm saying. So that's what I'm saying about social awareness, right? So if we're trying to build a set of ideas that we want to build on, does that make sense? Okay. So if we're building on that, right? Here's the piece. Okay, and I don't mean to tease you. Me and him know each other. So if you're somebody who is, here's the basic math piece that they're missing. Okay. Here's the math piece that they're missing. So the math piece that the person's missing is, number one, you have to have a standard that you don't want a free lunch. It's just a straight standard. And then from there, you have to look at who you're interacting with, and you have to say to yourself, what is the win for that other person? Where do they get a win? Okay? So I want you to think of it like a math equation, okay? So let me give a simple example. So I'm doing a party at my house, okay? Now, what is involved in me creating a party at my house? I've given this example before. Say I'm doing a party at my house. Now, let's say that I'm going to bring over, what's harder to bring over usually, guys or girls, to get over to a party? Girls, right? So let's say I'm going to bring 300 girls. Now, if you have at least, call it a half flake rate, that's about 600 girls that I'm going to invite, right? Now, if you look at it at about 15 minutes to 20 minutes per girl that I invited as an interaction, and then further DM, how many minutes of my time is that to get to DM 600 girls to get out 300? How many minutes of my time is 600 times 20 minutes? Do the math on this. Again, it's all math. Just do the math. 20 minutes times 600. 12,000 minutes, okay? Now, if I'm out for 4 hours a night, 4 days a week, that's 16 hours, right? Or sorry, that's 16 hours, okay? Was that 12,000? Was it actually 12,000?
Yeah.
20 minutes times 600. Okay, so 12,000.
200 hours.
It's 200 hours. What is 600 times 20?
12,000.
12,000. So how many hours is that?
200.
Okay. So how many hours a week am I out for if I'm out for 4 days a week? 16, right? So how long did it take me to accumulate 200 hours of going out to meet all those people?
12.5.
What's that?
Days? No, week, or 12.5 weeks.
12.5 weeks, okay? So that's several months, whatever the number is, if we got it or not. That's several months of me going out. Now, I've lived in LA a long time, right? That's several months of me going out. So it's like, Owen, I've got an idea. Now, it's also going to cost me money in security and probably about $10K to put on the party. So you're looking at several months of going out, security, 10 months to put on the party, damage to the house, and all the work that we have to do to get the house ready. So it's like, okay, so you're looking at all that. I've got a good idea. How about you invite me to your party? Mwah! I'm going to come. Because I was thinking about this, like, rather than me spending 10 grand and running around for 12 weeks to fill it, you do it, and then I just come. Win-win. Right? So it's coming, it's like, where is this party that you're going to? Like, if I'm running that, and then say that I'm at the party, and then some guy wants to come up and talk to me. It's like, why do you think I put this on? Like, why did I go do this? Like, bro, we can talk. If you need to talk to me, send me a text, bro. Like, I don't need you to come talk to me in the middle of the party. Why did I put on that party? It's either to network with very, very high value dudes, or it's to meet people that I'm attracted to. But it certainly isn't to talk to you, bro. Why? Because you're not a prospect, you're a suspect. You're not a prospect, you're a suspect. You're that guy who wants to sit there after I spent, we'll call it 12 weeks and 10 grand to put this on so that I can meet the very, very specific people that I'm trying to meet. And you're that guy that wants to come burn my time down. That's all that you're trying to do. You're a suspect. So what would that guy have to do to become a prospect? It's really not that hard. That's why it's so infuriating. I mean, it would first of all be a set standard in the mind. They have to have a set standard. I'm not that person. I don't want to be a value leech. And then from there, they have to audit. Okay, well, who's this guy running the party? And then what people do is then they rationalize, go, well, I don't even want to go to that party. Okay, then you don't need to go. No one said you needed to be there. But if you're going to come, then how do you add some value to it? Well, maybe if I'm going to have to spend 12 weeks to get some girls to come, why don't you make it, because of you, 11 and a half and bring somebody? That'd be a simple example. So it's one of these things where you can add to something. If my buddies say that they're running some monster party, the first thing that my brain goes to is, how do I add to it? I don't want an invite. I don't want an invite to anybody's party in Los Angeles because I know what goes into that. I know the cost behind it. So I'm saying, well, how can I add to it? Either A, I'm going to invite them to one of my parties, or B, I'm going to bring the kind of people that they're trying to meet to those parties, or C, I'm going to help them do some networking. That's what I'm thinking. Like, if I could pull out my phone right now, okay? I've been on the phone all day because there's another very famous social media influencer, and he happened to post in his social media story, hey, I need a cameraman in LA. And literally, I've got a camera team that I will pay the salary. I will drive to San Diego. Now, I'm finishing this event here, and then I'm going to go to do another event leaving Thursday. So I've only got 2 days back in LA. And I'm going to take those 2 days, I'm going to take my expensive cameras, I'm going to take my camera team that is fully paid by me, and I've been on the phone with their team all day, and they're giving me specs, and they're giving me pie charts, and they're giving me PDF files, and they're like, you see me coming in and out of the room here, I'm out there doing phone calls, talking to his creative engineer or something like that, and I'm getting ready to go help this guy to go shoot his stuff. Now, that's a guy who is a very big social media influencer, but I've been doing it longer than him. I actually think that he should just as well take the time to meet me. I think I'd add value to his life. But even in spite of that, rather than me being arrogant and going, well, I'm Owen, and doing that kind of vibe, no, I'm like, hey, I will do your shoot for you for free. So, I'll spend 5 or 10K to do the shoot for free for him on a somewhat of a chance that we'll become friends. I'll spend 5 or 10K to maybe make a high-level male friend. I would actually say something, give me a sec. I'd actually say that and this is a very controversial statement, but I hope someone wouldn't take it out of context. I think on average it costs about 5 or 10K to make a male friend. I actually think that's about what it costs. 5, 10, 20, 30K to make a good male friend. It's about what it costs. Why? Let me give some examples. One of my best friends that I have in life is a guy named Jesse. There was some random networking thing that I saw after I shot the Blueprint Decoded when I was in my mid-20s. And it was this weird networking thing that cost 10 grand to go. I said, God's plan. Threw down the 10K, went to this networking thing. I happened to meet Rob Proctor when I was there, went in his hotel room, met him. Didn't do anything for my life, but I met him briefly. And that was neat. He passed away. And then I met my friend Jesse. And like, did I really get anything else out of that event? No, I didn't. But I met Jesse and we became friends for a long time. So I'm like, yeah, it cost me about $10K to make friends with Jesse. Now, the reason why that is because the world is, those whole prospect suspect things, the world is so filled with suspects that it's the suspect to prospect ratio is so incredibly high that you literally have to you have to pay money to get in a room of prospects and not suspects. You have to pay money to get in a room of prospects. So what winds up happening is that, there's groups like, there'll be networking groups. Like this is an example I like to give. There's a networking group called, it was by a guy named Joe Polish, and it's just called the 25K group. And he has another group, and it's just called the 100K group. Why does he call it the 25K group or the 100K group? And is there any difference between the 25K or 100K group? No. At the mastermind?
You're getting away from the people that would only spend.
Yes, you're getting away, the 25K people are getting away from and building a wall against the people who don't have 25K. And the people that pay 100K are getting away from and building a wall of the people that don't have 100K. If you get the Virgin, I've given this example a few times. If you go get there's a thing called the Virgin Lounge, and there's other ones like that at the airport. You pay, that one's only $500 a year, and you pay $500, and then you go in the Virgin Lounge, and it's the exact same thing as the general area, but there's a grapefruit and there's a bowl of cereal. That's all there is in the Virgin Lounge. Why do you pay the $500 to go in the Virgin Lounge as opposed to the general lounge area? What's the purpose? I'm not saying everyone has to do this, but the network isn't only somebody with even $500. So like the networking is going to be quite low. But to be fair, it could be a little bit of networking. What else are you trying to hide from? You're just trying to hide from what's that?
The suspects.
Hiding from suspects. It's just a wall against suspects. It's like that crazy lady who like starts hitting her kid when her kid's puking, and then she's screaming at him and hitting him while eating Cheetos. Her brain is fried from high fructose corn syrup and Coca-Cola, and like, and she smoked too much weed in high school, and now her brain doesn't work, and like she thought she's partying, but she's ruined for life. And for those of you that smoked a lot of weed in high school, you can fix it, but the point is she probably won't, and she's certainly not fixing it with Cheetos, and so now she's just like, hitting this kid, and like the kid's puking, and then like the puke's flying everywhere, then they're screaming, and then they're screaming at the plane clerk that makes $12 an hour that's just doing their job, and like taking up the wrath of like their childhood abuse on the flight attendant to get a feeling of power, and like that's just generally what the society looks like. So so you literally just pay $500 because there's like a 50% chance that you'll have to deal with that instead of 100. Like there's probably still someone beating their kid up in the Virgin Lounge as well, but it's like less often. So what winds up happening is like that's you're creating a shield, right? Now what does that mean? Well, entrepreneurs value their time, like I said earlier, right? Like for example, if you did phone sales, you value your time. So now you're getting into a room. What you're doing is you're avoiding. Remember what I said earlier? What's one of the biggest things that I wish that I could change about my life by my mid-40s? Is all those random conversations that went nowhere. So as a result of that, you get that when you're in a room full of people that paid 25K or 100K. I don't do one of those myself, but I'm just making the point. Like, actually, I have done those in the past. Actually, they've been pretty great. But I'm not doing one currently. But like, you get in a room of those people. Well, now that 8 hours of chatting with people is all other go-getters. It's all prospects. It's all people that are at minimum operating, spiritually, internally at some kind of high level and a good vibe. And you can just share camaraderie with like another peer who's like that. Or, at best you wind up doing business together, or they give you recommendations or life advice, Simple, like, friends of mine just would give me one simple book that I would never think to read that changed my whole approach to everything, that saved my life. Like just knowing the right people has saved my life. Like life and death situations that were horrible, like really, really bad stuff. And I have the one smart friend, they say, hey, you need to read this book. Boom, life-changing. So because they know where the pinpoint laser is. They know how to cut through the clutter. So that guy who does that phone call with me, when I'm calling him a suspect, I want to be clear here. I like to help people just to help them. So that means that there's a period, there's chunks of my time that I will give just to go and help people, okay? Just to go and help people. But understand that you have to learn to be careful who it is that you're helping, because a lot of the time the specific people that you're helping, they are the ones that are the biggest takers, they're the biggest suspects, and the more that you help them, it's actually hurting them because you're enabling them. Kobe Bryant wrote an article about this before he died. Let me see if I can get it out for you. And it's literally you're not allowing. The nature of DNA is that we have to harmonize with our ecosystem in a healthy way. And life is not really about so much like what it is that you just get. Okay, that's not really what life is. Life is about balance with your ecosystem. Does this make sense, guys? It's not like if you got $1 billion, but you're out of harmony with your ecosystem, and you're out of harmony with yourself, then what does it matter that you got all this money or not? You just go wind up blowing your brains out. That's why a lot of rich kids blow their brains out, among other reasons. So, Kobe Bryant's game-changing advice for a 17-year-old self. What would you write to your 17-year-old self? Former Los Angeles Lakers basketball star Kobe Bryant has an answer. Dear 17-year-old self, when your Laker dream comes true tomorrow, you need to figure out a way to invest in the future of your family and friends. This sounds simple. You may think it's a no-brainer, but take some time to think on it further. And then, pointedly, he writes, I invest. I did not say give. Let me explain. Purely giving material things to your siblings and friends may appear to be the right decision. You love them, and they were always there for you growing up. So it's only right that they should share in your success and all that comes with it. So you buy them a car, a big house, pay all their bills. You want them to live a beautiful, comfortable life, right? But the day will come when you realize that as much as you believed you were doing the right thing, you were actually holding them back. You'll come to understand that you were taking care of them because it made you feel good, right? And that's what I'm saying is like, if I explain to that guy what he's doing wrong, it'll make me feel good. If I explain to him what he's doing wrong, he'll think I'm just manipulating him. But if I sit there on the phone answering his questions, it makes him feel good. You know, he's like, this was great, got this guy to call me, to tell me where the free event was and spent hours on the phone with him, and we just got to talking, and he gave me all this advice. But at the end, all that's doing is enabling the value takes suspect mentality and showing him that the way to get resources is just get free stuff and be a suspect, not a prospect. So then he says, the horrible thing about this too, there's layers to why you can't explain this. Because again, with grandiosity, people will hear this and they'll say, no, you're just saying that so that you can get money. Because you need $1,000. Like this is just a giant video to get $1,000. Things like that. Like so you can't even say it. And this is why most people just won't do it. Like a lot of wealthy people are just like, I'm not even going to explain this to you because if I explain it to you, you're going to say I'm tricking you, and for your grandiosity. So it's like you're just you're howling at the wind. You're preaching to the choir. The people who get this get it. Those who don't won't. The people who get it, and those who won't. Like when lockdown was happening, and people are like, what's your opinion? I'm like, I'm not going to sit here making problems in my life. If you don't know what this is, then you're dumb. Like, if you don't know what this is, then you're dumb. And you're committed to believing what you believe, I'm not going to change your mind. If your brain worked, you'd know what this was. And if you don't know what this is, then you're too dumb to get it. So it's like this weird thing. It's like, I want to tell you, but why do I need to tell you? Like, why do you need to make a problem in my life for me to tell you what you obviously should know? So you're holding them back. You will come to understand that you were taking care of them because it made you feel good. It made you happy to see them smiling without a care in the world. And that was extremely selfish of you. While you were feeling satisfied with yourself, you were slowly eating away at their own dreams and ambitions. Why? Because you're showing them the wrong way to exist. You were adding material things to their lives, but subtracting the most precious gift of all, independence and growth. Okay? They need to suffer. Not for me to make them suffer. I'm not saying I'm going to do it, but they need to go. They need to hit a wall with the suspect mentality. See that it doesn't work for themselves. You could argue that the spiritual reason they incarnated on this earth is to see that doesn't work, and you're blocking them from that. So it's so then what happens is understand that you're about to be the leader of the family, and that this involves making tough choices, even if your siblings and friends do not understand them at the time. Invest in their future, don't just give. Use your success, wealth, and influence to put them in the best position to realize their own dreams and find their true purpose. Put them through school, set them up with job interviews, and help them become leaders in their own right. Hold them the same level of hard work and dedication that it took for you to get to where you are now and where you will eventually go. I'm writing to you now so that you can begin this process immediately, and so you don't have to deal with the hurt and struggle of weeding them off of the addiction that you facilitated. That addiction only leads to anger, resentment, and jealousy from everybody involved, including yourself. And this is what I mean with that whole thing of like you're dating someone, they're like, but am I seen and blah, blah, and all this stuff. And you're like, I'm trying to see you. And it's just an enablement of being in a bad mood. There's a middle ground with that. Obviously, it doesn't mean to like really ignore someone, and there's a middle ground. But I'm just saying that when you're enabling somebody, it does nothing. I've sat there pounding my head against the wall. I love you. I see you. I care about you. What do I need to do? And it just will not penetrate. And then I'll say, and then in my worst moments that I'm not proud of, I'll be like, do you know who I was dating before you? I'm with you. And then like, you think that resonates? Right, so now I look like now I look like a dick. You know what I mean, right? Like, do you know how much those parties cost that it took to meet you? And it's like, that's obviously not, like, that's not something Prince Charming would said. So now I'm being depedestalized because I've hit a point of exasperation that I'm saying crazy stuff that won't resonate. Right? That's not going to resonate, even though it's logically true. And like in my mind, like, do you know how expensive that was? Like, it's like, oh, so all you care about is money more than love? No, but like, that's 12 weeks. You know, right? But if you love me, that's my point. I love you. You know, right? But it won't resonate, right? And now you're sitting, you know, so now you're sitting there like, but the 12 weeks, the 10K per party, and almost done. And then you're like I sat on the, like, I didn't need to do this phone call with you. I need to make 18K a day personally for the business to even float. And I'm sitting on the phone with you trying to explain that you're a value leech. Yeah, but you're just making me feel bad. You know, right? You're like, but, like, and you're just trying to get my money. But I'm not. Like, I love you. I'm trying to show you. You know, right? But yeah, but at the end, you just want my $1,000. You know you need it. But do the math. The math proves that I don't need the 1,000. The math proves it. Yeah, right. You just want the $1,000, you know? You need my money, right? You know what I mean, right? Now give me my secret trick. So you get right? You get depedestalized. So now, because what I mean by depedestalized is like, is when you own your power, yeah, maybe you did those parties to meet somebody, but ideally there's like a romantic connection and you have some grace and some kind of like an effortless grace to you, and you kind of like carry yourself with some confidence and some swagger, and you're kind of like the hero in that person's life. You're that person who helps them and is a hero, and that's the role that you're playing. And now instead of what you're doing is you're depedestalizing yourself by like self-justification, begging them to understand, using logical facts and figures that they do not care about. It proves nothing. And you're playing this game where nothing's going to make them see it. They're not going to see it. That person needs to live their life, and maybe they need to go make their own money. Maybe they need to go spend 10K a party and see what that looks like before they can understand that it's not that you're some money-grubbing, selfish person, that you're actually somebody who's like, I have a little bit of ambition with my life. I'm trying to meet better quality people. I'm trying to be proactive in the expansion of my life and proactive in being able to grow so I can be of more service to others. So I'm, as far as my dating life or social life, I'm trying to put on a party and meet some cool people and live my life like you're supposed to do. So, and not just have like 50 dudes that just want to come there and run through the place as, in the suspect mentality, like locusts, destroy it all. That doesn't make you a bad person because you're not trying to facilitate their enablement. That doesn't make you a bad person. So let's go looking at the Kobe Bryant thing. Just to finish this off, right? Kobe had his own parents sell off his priceless high school memorabilia before he died. Imagine your parents did that to you. You had to try to go buy it back. Your own parents, just betrayed. And it's not like he needs the money, but and think of all the money he's given them, and they still go sell his high school memorabilia. And then we'll say, you're selfish, because he facilitated addiction. As time goes on, you'll see them grow this if you help them to grow, not just give them stuff. You'll see them grow independently, have their own ambitions, their own lives. Your relationship with all of them will be much better as a result. There's plenty more I could write, but at 17, I know you don't have the attention span to sit through 2,000 words. The next time I write to you, I may touch on the challenges of mixing blood with business, and I've certainly been there. And frankly, even when you really love someone, you love your partner, that kind of is like mixing blood with business metaphorically, because you love them so much, but you know that they're also causing problems, but you love them that much, so they become blood to you metaphorically, the closest thing to blood, in some ways closer than blood. But if you have them in your close proximity and they're being disruptive, it can bring you to your knees. Literally, I've had that. Like I've had it where like I sit in there burning down time trying to mediate situations to where I can't be effective at work. Next thing you know, the business is falling apart. And then when it falls apart, you get broken. You're a broken loser person ranting and being negative, and then you lose them out of your life and you fix the whole thing and you're like, this was meant to be for us. Why did we have to go here? Here's why we had to go here, because at the end of the day, you didn't recognize them for where they're at. If you respected them when you saw that behavior where they're at, you would have left and allowed them to sort it out themselves. But that hurts when you love somebody that much that you're willing to harm yourself to stick in there. So by the end of these situations, you've lost your grace, you've lost your poise, and the worst, most pathetic version of yourself comes out in the form of exasperation, over self-qualification, and just begging the person to see what it is that you're trying to do. And that's where it takes you to. So if you're somebody who is like in that suspect mentality and you wonder why you've never been told this, I'm taking a leap of faith even saying this stuff, knowing that if I post this, that not a single person in that mentality will be changed because their consciousness has a parasite on top of it, doesn't let them see it. The people who already get it are like, oh, I already knew all this. Thanks for confirming what I knew. So it doesn't do anything. There's almost just no solution to it. People just have to see it for themselves. I can't tell you how many times that I've had ex-staff members who like complained. They built their own business. They went through 100 times more BS than even I went through. And they come back to me a decade later and they say, I had no idea. I didn't understand. I thought you were just trying to make money off me. I didn't get it. I didn't know the pressure. What you did was so incredibly hard. Thank you. We probably don't become super tight again, but they come back very, very humbled. And, kind of like you with your parents. You thought your parents are jerks, and then you have your own kids. You're like, this is hard, and this is expensive. And the kid's just like, I'm taking the orange juice, and I hate you, Dad. And you're like, and again, like imagine that the parent is like, I gave birth to you. I've probably put $500,000 on your existence so far. You're just some kid. I don't need anything. I'm just trying to help you out. It's like, you're trying to run my life. I hate you, Mom and Dad. My kids don't do that, but like that's what most of us do, right? Most of us probably did that when we were kids. So, right? Like these people who are just trying to give you something, right? But you can't even conceive, when you're in that mode where you're not connected to that like beauty of giving, you can't conceive that was what they were trying to do with you, right? But isn't that like, even with parents, that's a funny example there that kind of just popped in there for us, because a parent, like a father as an example, or a mother, like we're supposed to honor our parents, right? Like really, really honor them. But how do we wind up treating them? Right? Like these are like the most important people that give you life, and they pay for you. Like this is why I even say with like a lot of the crap that even happened with my parents, people are like, are you mad about that? I'm like, it wasn't cheap, right? It wasn't cheap. I mean, think about even what a parent, because how many of you in this room had it to where like by the time that you were like in high school, you and your parents are like screaming at each other and have like, contempt for one another? Put your hand up if you had that, because I experienced that. How many of you guys had that? Okay, so this room here is maybe about 40%. How many of you had that, maybe episodes of that, even if it wasn't the whole time, but there was episodes of that? Put your hands up. Okay, so me seeing that's kind of a sad thing if you think about it, right? Because your parents, when they had you as a child, they didn't envision them like screaming at you and telling you to clean your room. They were envisioning a beautiful relationship between a father and daughter, a father and son. And then you see it devolve into this level of disrespect to where like someone who's a parent is now having to justify themselves to their kid, and the kid has contempt towards them as well. So realize that there's a certain eloquence or a certain eloquence is the right word. There's a certain grace and a healthy version of being pedestalized that's actually healthy that you want to maintain in your personal relationships. And if somebody's coming from that suspect mentality, by the end of it, you're gonna see the worst version of yourself that you've ever seen. It's just, begging them to see it and going into like an investment doubling down cycle to where you have loss aversion because you don't want to walk away from all the work that you've already put into. And in the end, you're like, wow, I don't even love this person any less. I still have all the great hopes and dreams for them that I always had. And I just can't believe that that's how it turned out. Like that's literally what you're left with. And I've been there. Let me talk a little.
Quick question.
Yeah.
What do you say to people when like you tell them, like they ask you what you have like in mind for the future, like your goals and all that, and you believe it, like I believe it myself, where I want to get to in my life, but some people don't really see that at the moment, and they just kind of like, you're not like, what are you even talking about? Like they're not in that mindset. Like what do you do? Do you tell them or just stay quiet?
I think at the end of the day, there's certain people in life who are not greedy, but who have a healthy sense of joy for life, that want to make some money to go have some fun, and want to make some money so that their kid doesn't, can get a dentist appointment, or so their kid can go to college, or, so that, like, I've got my kids out here right now. Today they went to the zoo, they went to the Willis Tower and the John Hancock Tower because they want to do both. And, yesterday they went to, it was like, they went everywhere, okay? And, and I don't know, that probably cost me, it's nothing crazy, but it's probably about, I don't know, maybe $1,000 a day. And then you're looking at another couple $1,000 in airfare to come out here, right? So, for them to have a weekend in Chicago, it's maybe like $4,000. It's not crazy money, but like that costs money. So like, do you want your children to be able to go, like come with you to Chicago and go on the boat tour and go to the museums and the zoos and eat at a cool restaurant and stuff like that and go to Millennium Park? Or do you want them to sit at home in poverty? Right? Does that make you this money-grubbing, greedy, like Scrooge McDuck character? Or does that just mean that you'd like your kids to be able to come with you on a trip? So, but this stuff costs money, right? So there's some people who, they have a love for life and they see that, it's cooler to go skiing in winter than not go skiing. It's cooler to, something simple like say, I don't know, you're in New York City. What else might you, like, first of all, New York City is expensive. But like, say that you're in New York City. What else might you want to do while you're up there? What are some other things to do in New York City?
Run some game.
Statue of Liberty.
Could be to meet some people, yeah. Statue of Liberty, right? I mean, there's things like, Freedom Tower, the Empire State Building, Rockefeller Center, all the different museums you could see, all the places that you could go, just walking down the Brooklyn Bridge. But past that, you're just down the coast from Maine. You're just down the coast from Acadia Park. You're down the coast from Kennebunkport. You're just down. You're a little bit south of Lake Placid, where you can go see where the Olympics took place. Anybody see those videos of me with my friend Shane going into Lake Placid, and we could just go pick chaga and reishi mushrooms and things like that? Like, I don't need to do that. I'm not some money grubbing, selfish person that I want to go do that. It's healthy that I want to go do that. I don't think you need to do that. I don't think like you need to go pick chaga mushrooms from Lake Placid. Like I just can't face my life if I can't go to Lake Placid and pick chaga mushrooms. But do you know what that costs? The actual expenses, like you got to get an Airbnb. What's the Airbnb going to cost? You're probably looking at $300-400. Probably cheaper ways to do it. You can van life it somehow. But you're looking at $300-400. You're looking at time off work, and you're looking at the gas and the rental car to drive there. And by the time it's all said and done, it's a couple $1,000. Is it greed or is it life affirming to go to Lake Placid and go pick some reishi mushrooms from a tree? I don't know. Who here would say greed? Would anybody say greed? I don't know. Maybe I'm controlling the frame here, so people are just being agreeable.
Well, you did it for money.
No. See, that's what you don't get. When I promoted Shane's, because actually he made an interesting point. He's critically thinking, but let's make a point here. So I went and promoted Shane's Black Magic Alchemy thing, right? Oh, I did that for money. Yeah, I made so much money promoting chaga mushroom tinctures. It was just a big scam, right? Millions came in. Yeah, that 20K viewed video, millions flooded into my bank in my new chaga mushroom empire, right? Nah, I did it for my homie to keep the cash so he could make like 5-10K. And with that same video, I could have done a CTA that would have made more and I could have pocketed it. And I volunteered to do that for Shane. And why did I volunteer to do that for Shane? Because he's the homie and because I want you all to get the damn product. So I made this beautiful video of me out in nature to show you guys all about where chaga and reishi comes from. I had fun doing it. God forbid Shane makes a couple bucks off it for his time when he was running his business so he can cover his costs. And then we just get it out to you guys. And I got a new discount. That's an expensive freaking product. That's real. But again, and I'm not saying that you're doing this, you're just trying to think critically, but like somebody in that mode is like, now look what he's doing. He's just trying to sell the chaga mushroom. And they're thinking this. And again, if you're like, it's not, but this is a good product. Like, yeah, right, you're not going to get me. And it's like, okay, you win, okay? You win. Don't take immune boosting medicinal mushrooms. Just lie down and die. Okay, got me. Okay, like let's not go make a fun video in nature that's fun to watch and gives you some ideas of things that you could go do. Let's not do that, right? Like for example, say I do a free tour. Okay, for those of you guys in this room, okay, if somebody's watching at home, okay, so we're now sitting here. It's the end of the free tour. It's like the room's tiny because almost everybody's gone. It's almost coming up on midnight on a Sunday. Okay. From the front of this room in the past, and if I want to ever go do a ton of sales at a free tour, damn it, I'm going to. So I'm not ashamed of that if I want to. That's my right. But as a case in point, we're sitting here, it's 11:24. How many we've been running these events now about 12, 13 hours a day. Out of a 26-hour free event, from the front of this stage between Julian and myself, how many minutes did we spend selling anything at this event? If you talked to me in the back, that was it. You came to the back to ask me about it. But from this event here, the proper event, how many minutes did I sell anything?
Maybe like 10 minutes.
I heard 5, I heard 0, I heard 10. What are some more guesses?
Wait, the whole time.
Seating.
Yeah, but was there? I talked about politics. I talked about God. What did that seed? My weird political views? You see what I'm saying? So at best, you got to meet me, so it sees something. So I wasn't like, the secret in all life is a mentor group, and I didn't do that shtick, okay? So out of 26 hours, I would say I took less than 5 or 6 minutes at the front of this room to say, if you want to take a program, it's at the back. Some people asking me some questions, and meet me at the back if you're curious about it. 5 minutes out of a 26-hour event. A 26-hour event where I talked about random esoteric things that have nothing to do with what I sell. And so, like this speech, okay? The speech, you don't watch this and go like, I got to sign up for something. You just watch this, I just kind of sound like I'm complaining. This speech, I'm depedestalizing myself. But there's people that will watch this and they will begrudge me that 5 minutes. And they'll call the whole thing a scam because for 5 minutes, and if I ever want to do a whole big fat upsell gangbang, that's my damn right to do it. I just happen to want to go do an artistic event because I find it fun. But if I did, because I don't want to give in to people that mindset by making excuses, but even with a highly artistic event, with just like, hey, if anyone wants to chat me about the program, a program offer, see me at the back. Even just that, there's people that will literally begrudge you that. They'll be like, look at this, scam, 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 and they'll begrudge you even that. Or they'll begrudge you doing a sales video, like one video out of every 20 videos. Well, what is that there? Let's look at their point of view, and I'm going to look at my point of view. Their point of view. Scam. They're going to see that as, it's their precious resources are like under attack, and you're not going to trick them. You didn't get them. You didn't trick them. Now they're making like almost no money. They never self-invest, but you're not going to trick them out of what they have, right? And there's literally a passage about this in the Bible. And it says, whoever has will be given more, and they will have abundance. Whoever does not have, even that will be taken from them. So the idea being is like, they're like, you're not going to get my 20K, right? And it's like, okay, okay. But if we do the math on at the end of the year what they spend that on, and it's poof gone on nothing, discretionary spending and coping. Now, does that mean that they need to go, dump out their bank on some program, mind predictor? No, it doesn't. But I'm not saying that. If someone just doesn't want to take my program, I'm not like, no, look at the Bible. Okay, I'm not saying that. But if they have this vitriolic attitude towards even just like a 2-minute thing after 26 hours, what is that telling where the person's at? In my view, they have their view. I'll tell you my view. They are the angel of death. They are human cancer. And I say that, and here's why I say it. It sounds harsh. I say that because they don't understand the laws of physics. They don't understand energy in, energy out. Now, the sad thing is when I was younger, I would listen to people like this. Like, I would sit there, and if somebody said that, I'd be like, I made them feel bad, and we just shouldn't even do it. Like, let's just find a way to do the free event and not even mention we have a program. We'll do the 26-hour free event, and we'll just eat the 50K, and we'll just figure it out somehow, some way. And and that's literally how I felt. And if you doubt me, who else put out 4-hour free videos, full production quality, every week for years with whole teams of it? So clearly I had problems. It's called codependence, by the way. Just people pleasing and codependence. But the problem is that if you listen to that, the whole thing tanks. People like this will get you so on edge trying to please them, and you'll never please them. If you pander to these people in your business, you will invite them in the door. You'll bring them in the door. They'll come to your event, the complaining suspect mentality people, and then they will cheer you off the cliff into bankruptcy to where you can't even do that free cool thing that you do. So for me to do what I do, okay, let's look at the math that I had to figure out. I wanted to create something beautiful. I had a vision where I wanted to create a team of instructors who would go out into beautiful natural environments, cities, places that are inspiring, places that added some class to a topic that, let's be honest, was kind of not exactly the most classy, right? Kind of not exactly the most classy. And I wanted to add a little bit of class to it. You know, call me and Luke making fart jokes class. Maybe I sound a little silly, but that's how I felt. So I wanted to do those in like big rooms, and I wanted people to be able to watch it for free, and I wanted people to be able to come for free. I wanted to have free groups, free phone consult calls, free seminars, free videos. Now that's a good thing, but what does that also attract? Parasites. So it helps people, but also attracts leeches. And some of those people, the kind of leeches that I've seen different variations of this. One of them that I'll see is the leech that goes, you know, I'm like you. You know, I was like, because I talk about how when I was younger, I was suicidally depressed. Like, I'm like you. I'm suicidally depressed. Like, we're like the same. And I'm like, oh, like in my mind, I'm getting excited because I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, you're another one of those guys that was depressed and fixed it or is in the process of fixing it. We're like each other, right? They're like, well, no, I don't think I can fix it. You know, I'm just depressed. I'm like, wait, you're not like me. Like, I had depression, but I was gunning to fix it. Like, you don't go out. You don't take action. You're not like me. You know, so I used to get pulled into conversations with people like this over DMs. There was people that I would literally just talk to over DM for hours or for days or months or years, just like pouring into them, thinking that they're ready to be fixed. The advice is sinking in. They're getting it. It's working. I'm such a great coach. These people are not going to get it in the current state that they're in, and you have to accept it. So pandering, thinking that it's making a dent. It's not. It's not. And usually what you'll notice with people like that, where they're leeching, and you're enabling that, is at the end when you say, hey, listen, I can't do this anymore. I can't keep DMing. I can't. These are the same people that will do things like take your conversation and go repost it and make a weird website about you and talk crap about you and be in this kind of like festering cesspool of people that just like talk crap all day. And you realize at a certain point, like they're not ready to change and you are enabling them and you're giving them this belief like, look, like in my case, like I contacted this coach guy and like we made friends and like we talk all the time, but like the people that do that don't take action. I hate to tell you, but like, you know who takes action? Clients take action. The people that cared enough to put some money into it take action. But again, if I say that, what does their brain go to? That's all just a trick. You need my $50. Like that's literally what they think. So you know, so it's all it's grandiosity. It's all this like this trick to get them and to you know they're like it's like the movie Twilight where like Bella, this very uninteresting girl who's vanilla as hell, has like a werewolf clan and a vampire clan all centering around her, and she's just like, hi, I'm Bella, like the most vanilla, average person, basic person ever. And there's like vampires and werewolves, like all fighting this giant epic battle for all of time over Bella, you know? And so, right, that's why it's such a good fantasy for people, for a broad audience to read. But in reality, that would never happen, right? It's grandiosity, right? It's like, oh, there's all these like important people that are like conspiring for your $50 that you have, and you know they're all out to get you, and you know, and like it's good to have critical thinking and not just buy everything put in front of your face. I get that, but this is what I'm talking about here is just like low-level parasitic grandiosity because the person doesn't actually have any real sense of value for themselves, and so they have to make something up in order to cope. It's called an alloplastic defense. You can look this up in psychology. So the problem is that person in that paradigm, it's very, very hard to reach them. You can't reach them. And by the time that you've attempted to reach them and to connect to them over and over, they depedestalize you to the point that you're not, like you begin to even take on their brain waves if you're exposed to that long enough. Like you will, like you're around that long enough, you'll find that you just start like being weird and conspiratorial and negative and sounding crazy and talking crazy. Like I've found myself in these places. If it's a quick one and on topic, yeah.
It is on top.
Louder though. Got to be louder.
Sorry. I've really resonated with what you're saying, and I can identify like in my life like that's been a very big theme in my life. Me being a value leech off of the people who, through their goodwill and their love and all this stuff, they give me all this value and they try to help me and I tell them that I'm gonna do it but in the end I just end up not doing it and I end up always just being lazy and just like it never gets anywhere, you know. So what do I like? What's really for me? Like I recognize that and I want to move past that.
I can give you the answer easily.
Recognize that I'm also really addicted to it.
Yeah.
Like
Can I give you the answer?
Sure.
It's actually what I said. Just look at who you're dealing with and do the math on what's a win for them and make a personal standard that you're not going to be that person. And then don't be a conspiratorial person thinking that people are like out to get your tiny amount of resources. If that person's operating at 50x higher level, they don't care about it. If they're putting in their time, it's out of love. And understand that they're trying to give to you because they are in the same way that maybe you might do a party because like by the time that you put all the work into the party, you could argue it wasn't even worth it, right? Does that make sense? Like by the time that you went out for 12 weeks, paid 10K, was that party, was it really worth it? Was it? By way of looking at it, it wasn't even close to worth it. But why did you do the party? Because you're just trying. You're like, I don't know, I'm trying to do something here. Like I don't want to just sit here doing the same thing, so let's shake this up. That's all. You know, like I've done things like where I did like outdoor trips with camera work, right? And I'm just trying to learn how to go shoot videos outdoors. And then, you know, the cameramen are losing footage and running late and there's problems on the way there. And I've been in a pretty bad mood. I feel like I didn't even enjoy the whole thing. But that's part of a learning curve to getting to a point where I could enjoy it. Now I do enjoy trips. So am I supposed to just sit there not trying to do trips and not making mistakes and not having it maybe not be worth it? Like, you think that my first trips that I ever did to like say, Arches National Park when I first started doing traveling videos that were really expensive and taking time off work. You think that was like, oh, I'm in Arches. Oh, this is so fun and it's like so free. I mean, there was moments like that, you know. My editor Terrence is, you know, under the stars, looking at the stars from the top of the arch and stuff. It was some beautiful moments there that were great, but a lot of it was just me having a panic attack, you know, right? Like I'm at the top of like right by Delicate Arch, like I'm gonna fucking jump off this thing, you know, in total exasperation because I'm trying to figure out how to get a video done, you know, right? So it's like it's like I'm trying, but I'm going through my learning curve. I'm doing that party. Maybe you know I did one of those parties, and I think we had criminals come in and steal like $500,000 worth of stuff at one point. That wasn't worth. Yeah, that's a real thing. They actually were pretty slick about it. That happens when you do parties, right? But all that you're seeing is like me just like, yeah, I'm at a party, right? But I will still keep doing parties. Why? Because I'm not gonna not do parties. Just go through the learning curve and figure it out. You just gotta barrel through, baby. You know, you do some bad trips. Okay, well then figure it out. You gotta figure it out somehow. So in the same way, you know, that person who's like maybe trying to help you, you know, they're trying to, they themselves are trying to go from being consumers to givers and try to not just be like in a selfish mindset, but trying to like add to you so that they can spiritually evolve or they can level up. They're trying to do that for you, right? They're not just trying to maybe get at you. So.
No, I don't believe that they're.
Oh no, I don't think you had that. But what you're saying is how to take the advice. So, give me one sec. So, what you're saying, like, because even here, I'm going to give you a subtlety there. In reality, like even if I don't get your perfect situation, does it really matter, or is it better just to give a good speech, right? So that's just a side point. That's again, what's funny is that's another example. When I say that, I look like a dickhead. But what's more important, that I answer your exact question perfectly, or that I give you that little tip that I just gave you there, which is like, if the rant that I'm about to go on serves the group, let it go. That's actually real feedback, by the way, because I used to do that. That's actually real feedback. But again, the person like in the lower states, like, that's just some excuse that you messed up the question, right? Because they're not able, because they're thinking within the framework of deep density of the mind, so they're not able to see that. Okay, so that's an interesting little subtlety there. So what you're saying though is how to get the value back. So what it is A, make a stand, like how to actually act on that help that they're giving you. A, you're like, yeah, I'll take it, right? So good. So then, so A, what you're doing is you have to make a standard that you're someone who doesn't want a free lunch. And B, what you have to do is you have to say, well, what would be a win to you? So if you look at, so what I would do, like in situations like that, say I look at a party like that, what I do is I say, how many, I do the math. I'm like, well, how many girls are gonna be there? How much work did that guy have to do to get the girls there? What's it probably cost to put this party on? And why did he do something that extreme? And then I'd say, what's he trying to get out of it? And how can I add to that? And then I just start thinking of like what I can give. Look, you know what it is, bro? Sometimes just that mere act of trying, even if the person didn't need it, they'd appreciate it. You wanna know why? The fact that you just tried, even if they didn't even want the thing. Because you know what it says to that person? It said, it's like, I try to reciprocate, you didn't even need the thing that I reciprocated with, but what you got from this was that I care. What you got from this was that I acknowledge the work that you put in, And so it makes the person feel acknowledged, because what happens is when you give and give and give and give, you start to realize like a lot of the people I'm giving to are not acknowledging it. Like they're not letting it land. And I don't want to keep giving and giving and giving to people who can't let it land because I'm enabling them. Like I remember one time I was doing a party and I got all this grass-fed steak and kombucha. And I remember I had this moment where I looked around. That grass-fed steak and kombucha was like that. Like you think the 10K is expensive. Try going and getting grass-fed steak for everybody. Later, I wound up doing $1 million parties, and that was the whole next level. But I did that by moving in with a super rich dude who was covering it. But when I was paying for it myself, I got all this grass-fed steak and high-end kombucha. That was really expensive. And I remember just looking at the party and just seeing these people looking half unconscious, pounding down the grass-fed steak and pounding down the kombucha. I was like, maybe the next party, I'll literally just get box wine, Franzia, and I was proud of that. I don't even know what Franzia is. I'm just like, what is the cheapest, nastiest box wine I can physically find? And someone told me it's called the Franz. They're like, the Franz, ooh. I'm like, get it. And I'm not even kidding. And yeah, like not even kidding. I don't even know what the Franz is. Is it actually good? I don't even know. Some guy's like, I like the Franz, man. So I don't know what it is. It just sounded nasty. And then I said, just order up some cheap pizza. And you know what I noticed? The people up there, no difference. They have that same unconscious look of being half oblivious. And I was like, this is better. I'm not enabling it. Like I'm doing a party for my reasons and they're providing me with social proof, but there's no point in me doing all this like grass-fed thing. It's not being absorbed. That's I'm willing to give. All that I ask is that the person lets it land. And so you learn over time, you're like, there's all these people that I gave to who didn't let it land at all. And yes, there is something good that it talked about in the Sermon on the Mount. It's a very important thing in the Sermon on the Mount is giving freely, even giving to people who are your enemies. But also be aware that if all that you're doing is facilitating somebody being in a taker state, then how are you going to actually help them to evolve? Quick question in the back, yep.
What happens when
Louder.
What happens when you're trying to like give value, but it comes across as like being needy?
Well, that's actually what, yeah, so he said what happens when you give value comes across as being needy. That's the depedestalization. That's what I'm talking about, right? Is that you're trying to give value, the person's not receiving it, then it looks needy, and by the end of it, you're now exasperated trying to explain to them that this wasn't needy, I'm actually trying to help you, but they're not able to see it. And so now you're like you're in this like even this whole speech is like a extended version of this like depedestalizing myself, like exasperated rant, right? So let's take it to the next level. But it's something that I've been trying to explain for years now. It's a dynamic that I've been trying to explore in a speech for years and try to explain it. And again, like I said, it's a matter of just doing the math on what that guy would want. So I give that example of like, there's this guy, he runs a social media, he has a social media following. I run a low-level 8-figure business. I don't know if he runs a business that big or not. He might run a way bigger one, he may not. But I've been doing this a long time. I got deep connections, and I got deep influence, and I got a lot to offer. But just the mere fact, like to just get acquainted with that person, sure, I'll pay my camera team, I'll pay 10, 15K. That's 10, 15K to maybe make a friend. Maybe. When I paid that 10K to go to that group where I met my friend Jesse, that wasn't like you pay 10K, it's like an escort or something. You pay 10K, it's like a prostitute, like pay 10K, get a friend. That's you pay 10K to maybe get a friend. You pay 10K, you might get a friend. It's like going fishing. You pay all the money for the boat, the gear, you might get a fish. You might go home and say, it was a nice day on the lake. So in the same way, like meeting high-level friends, prospects, not suspects, it's actually a risk. You should get higher-level friends. You risk money just to get maybe a chance to get a high-level friend. Look, it's a lot like, I'm not a big believer in traditional dating, but if you were, it's like the way that you'd think of as a traditional date. You're paying money to maybe have a chance for them to become your girlfriend. It's kind of how I think of it. I'm not a big believer in that format. Can work with the right person, but you're paying money to maybe have the person like you. And that's like what it, again, I think, remember I talked yesterday about the idea of really beautiful things being captured, right? Like beautiful institutions get captured, they become negative. Dating has been captured. Like the beauty of a traditional date. Who doesn't love that? How many guys in here wouldn't love to take a woman on a traditional date? And you'd feel powerful doing it if you felt that it was being received. Put your hand up. I love traditional dating so much that I take my ex-girlfriends on traditional dates. Because I don't want to take some random model that I met out at a bar somewhere on a traditional date because I don't think they're going to let it land. I think they think I want something. Same thing. But I just enjoy the date. You want to hook up with me. It's like, well, I'm open to that, but that's like, I really wanted to eat here. But you look like you want something. Guys, Right now, if I call my ex-girlfriends and be like, what do you think of Owen? The ones that I actually still talk to, some just run off, they can't handle it. But like the ones I still talk to, you're like, what do you think? They're like, he's the best ex-boyfriend ever. Be like, what's he do? Like, he buys me gifts. He takes me for dinners. He takes me to the spa. I take my exes to the spa on romantic dates.
That's cool.
And we don't have sex.
That's so cool.
Because what man doesn't want female companionship? I don't want to go. Look, I love John. And sometimes, I love James. But sometimes I don't want to look over a candlelit dinner at James. And I love you, bro. But I don't want to look over a candlelight at James. I start getting the tingles, and I feel confused. James starts looking at me real deep. Next thing you know, he's trying to get me to go on a through hike with him or something. That's an inside joke. I keep clowning James here. We're talking about going some long hike. Or we could go camping together for months, James, me and you. So, right?
Stroking each other's beard.
Yeah, like, this is like, you ever watch, let's watch Brokeback Mountain, guys. So, sometimes I don't want to look across the candlelight at James. So, so I want a woman to go with. And if I don't, and I don't want to take someone on dating casually because then they're going to think I'm taking it the next level. And if I'm single, I want a woman to go with. So I will go call, a beautiful woman I spent 3 beautiful years with. Probably it exploded at the end, but we got over it. And I want to take him for a candlelit dinner, and I don't want to fuck at the end. I don't want to hook up at the end. I just want to have a nice night. I want to eat dinner with them. Sorry, I just want to eat dinner with them. And the only downside is they sometimes do get confused. They're like, are we like, this like back on? I'm like, no, like I value you because you're mine. It's kind of like Hugh Hefner. There's these videos of Hugh Hefner when he was alive in that show The Girls Next Door, and he's got all these these 3 young girlfriends, and then that old 80-year-old girl comes up who's like, he doesn't even want her physically anymore, but he literally ignores the 3 younger ones and he just wants to talk to his 80-year-old ex-girlfriend, right? Because there's real history there. Why I love hanging out with exes, and the current girls despise it. What's funny is the current girls are like, why are you hanging out with the ex? It's like, no, you don't get it. Like, that's the one I wouldn't hook up with. The one that you should be, like, you're afraid of the wrong thing, right? Like, you should be afraid, but not of her, right? You should be afraid of the million other ones, okay? The one I'm done with, I already hit that, okay? I'm finished. There's something called a Coolidge effect. There's nothing happening, okay? She could strip down naked, it ain't moving, right? I've been done with that, right? I ate that meal, 500 too many times. So, you could eat the best steak in the world, but 500 times just steak, for 3 years. You're just like, are you going back for more of that steak? You're like, I'm okay. Right? There's other food out there that you might want to be careful about, but that steak is okay. So, but they can't manage that in their minds. So, but it's this thing where like, yeah, I enjoy going out with an ex-girlfriend because I don't want anything. Like, I just want to lavish them with some attention and make them feel good, and it makes me feel masculine to do it. I like it. I feel like the relationship doesn't even start till we broke up in some ways. Yeah, because then now they're not demanding the ring. Now I'm not wanting anything from them, and it's like an old friend who there's like a real sincere connection with, and you're only there by choice. You're only there by choice. Now it's like, well, if you get along that well, why don't you try it again? Because you're now reintroducing that same dynamic that made it fail in the first place. So I don't care. Kind of a random side point I'm making, right? But I think what I'm largely getting at is that there's a joy in real giving, and it's enjoyable to really give, and it's enjoyable to spend quality time with people. So people see things like the free tour, and it's like, well, why'd you spend 26 hours doing a free event if you only sold stuff for 2 minutes? Well, or like the highest number we got here was 10. I think it's 2. Y'all thought it was 10. It was probably 6 minutes, right? But why do I do something like that? I do it because I have fun doing it. What would I really be doing that's more fun than putting on a free event? You see what I'm saying? What would I be doing that's more? What's that?
Skiing.
Yeah, I guess skiing. And you know what? That's why I ski sometimes. But I prefer this over skiing. But I like skiing a lot too. Okay? But here with this thing, I won't tear my ACL. Just my voice. So what I'm saying is, like, when I go, I think people at a lower level can't fathom the idea that maybe somebody just wants to put on a free event. They can't process that. And it's because they've never had that feeling of present energy download of giving to somebody. But again, the problem is you can get so addicted to that present energy download that you kind of like, you're almost using the other person to get that present energy download. And that's what I would say is my guilty thing that I've done at times is like, I want to take you and lavish you and do cool stuff for you so I could get a present energy download. And it's like, well, they might not be ready to receive that. So that's why you have to be careful who you engage like that with. And there's an energetic channel that's going back and forth. So part of my evolution was, and I mean this, like, it literally took me years to even be able to emotionally handle even doing things like product launches. Like, I did a product launch. I did a program called Foundations, and I think it was like 2005. I did Blueprint Decoded around 3 or 4 years later. And I did Hot Seat. That was 2008 to 2016. So that's 8 years later. Okay, so my product launches were like 4 years and like whatever years apart. Now, I always encourage other instructors to do products. Why? Because they should get paid. But my own product launches is about once every three or 5 years, okay? Now, is that really a healthy thing to do? Oh, that's so magnanimous. Oh, you're so magnanimous. That's not healthy. Do you understand? You guys lose when I do that. You guys lose when I do that. A normal person, if they're putting out digital products, should have a new digital product offering based on what they've learned with a decent amount of time since last time, and they should be releasing a digital product. Some people would say every 6 months, some people would say every year, some people would say every 2 years. But it shouldn't be every 6 or 7 years. Why? Because why is that? What does that digital product represent? If you say that you put out a digital product and you make $500,000 or $1 million off it, what does that represent? Think about this. Is it you're going to become Scrooge? You become Scrooge McDuck now. Like, what does that actually represent? Putting out a digital product. Stop, please tell me someone here knows. What does it represent when you do that? What happens when you get that money? Come on.
You're saying when you come out with a new product more
Yeah.
frequently,
If I go launch Hot Seat.
in the company, right?
Yeah. New products means he on the camera gets paid. It means you get a cooler venue in the middle of downtown that costs more money. It means that we have videos coming out sooner. If I spend some on myself, it means that I'm happier and more refreshed to serve. It means that it also means that I've curated my latest ideas and released them as they're fresh. So, yeah, quick question.
I think I know the answer to this, but how do you help someone without them getting addicted to giving to them?
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying, right? Is that like at a certain point, it's the prospects versus suspects. Like you start to realize like
Just have a boundary.
some people are serious and some people aren't. And one of the ways that I began to identify it, and people won't like the sound of this, but I'm like, maybe I should be putting the time into the people who actually pay for programs. Like, do the free tours, help everybody there for free. I'm paying a lot of money to do it. And then after that, like, I've done my part. And here's why I say it, okay? Now, when you hear me say that, here's what you're gonna first think. Oh, of course you're gonna say that. Help the people more that paid to take a program. Let's look at it from a different angle. If you paid and took my program, you invested in my program. In other words, you invested in me. How would you feel if I told you that instead of bettering that program for you, instead what I did was I sat there DMing somebody who's never gonna get it? So your program so you supported me. And the way that I rewarded you was by like arguing with an internet troll. You know what an internet troll is at its core, right? It's a value leash trying to trigger you so that you'll keep answering. They're trying to burn your time up. That's what an internet troll is. That's all they are. They don't mean anything they're saying. They're just trying to burn your time up. So it's like, so say you paid to take my program. If I would have released a digital product, at minimum, I'd be more happy with myself that I'd do a better program. That's a minimum. But more likely, I'd get the price down for you. I'd add more assistant instructors. I'd make it longer. I'd beef it up. But because I'm arguing with an internet troll, or like arguing with some girl I'm dating, or I'm who just can't be happy when I'm showing the world, or I'm arguing with I'm trying to like coach the person on the internet, and it's like, hey, Owen, I got love for you. I got mad love for you. Why are you talking to them, bro? What are you talking to them for? I got love. I took your program. I support you. I support your vision. I got love, bro. What you talking to them for? So this is kind of like a funny thing, right? Like, a lot of people will say to me, do you ever talk to like maybe this person that you had a falling out with or that person you had a falling out with, right? And when I was younger, I would make a really big effort to go re-befriend people that I'd falling out with, people that did really bad stuff. But I'd really make an effort to say, hey, I'm still your friend. I'd still hang out with you. And I think that was like unconditional love, and I think that's a powerful thing. But you want to know something? Later, as I got older, ours is kind of another level, which is this. If I've got a son Vincent, Dylan, Tristan, that I know about. And, okay, I got a son. Hey, that's the tough part of this, right? So, I got a son, and somebody did me wrong. Yes, there's a spiritual element to going and hang out with them and showing that you're not heard and forgiving them. But I got a son. Why should my son sit there and get less attention from his father so that I can argue with a girl who can't enjoy a ski trip? Why should my son get less, why should my son get less attention because somebody who made up some nasty video or something like that, and then now I'm like, oh, I'm going to be a bigger person, go spend time with you, but what am I doing to my own son by taking time away from them? If you did a program and I'm wasting time talking to them, it's like, yo, I didn't make the nasty video about you. I got love for you, bro. Show me, where's the love, homie? If you got time, like say you're on a program, if you got time to go dick around with that guy, extend the program by a day. I got love. I got love. No, I need to go be magnanimous with them or something, right? There's a place for it. But it's interesting to think about, right? So it gets to the point where you're like, who are you giving energy to? Are you giving energy to the people that are really going to grow, people that are really that really are letting it land, people who will reciprocate that same vibe? Are you putting your energy there? Or are you putting your energy into somebody who did you wrong and you're just, what are you how are you training people to treat you? I remember I used to do videos and you would see some kind of like bad comment on a video. And I would see it where I'd find myself compulsively wanting to answer the bad comments on the video, having a dialogue. I'm like, I believe in free speech. Let's have a dialogue. I want to have a dialogue. Later you realize that person's goal is to waste your time. Because what happens is you answer them and they know, they understood what you said, or perhaps they didn't because they're crazy. Yeah, and then what they do is like, they'll give the answer, they'll answer you back, but with yet another misinterpretation, so that then you can then have some other kind of, misinterpretation. You try to explain yourself again. Now what do? You go in this pit. Now they've got the guy in the video responding to them. They're misinterpreting it. Now they're triggering you. You're responding again and again and again and again. And now remember what I said about how you kind of depedestalize yourself? Now you're supposed to be this cool guy doing a video, and now you're arguing with a troll. But like, is it wrong that I want to have a dialogue with a troll? You know what I mean, right? Like, it's a troll, but it's a human. That troll's a human being.
It's an AI, man.
It could be an AI troll now, right? But you know what I mean, right? Like, that troll's still a human. Maybe you could save him. You could save the troll.
You can save the AI.
And the AI, right? You save the troll and the AI for troll. Like now, a troll can make an AI farm of trolls. So so almost there, okay? So if you want to save the troll, you're like, no, but the troll can be saved. The troll can be saved. So you're like, no, but you're understanding it like this. But like, did you consider this? I gotcha, right? Look. But that's not their goal, right? Their goal is not to understand. Their goal is to misunderstand because they are a human cancer. They are cancer in the form of a human. It's not their actual cancer. Maybe they have cancer, I don't know. But they are human cancer. Like what cancer is, like this weird, pointlessly self-replicating thing that just kills the organism and sucks energy out and gives nothing back. They're that. That's what they are at their core. The lowest levels, there's actual entire silos of this on the internet. I won't mention them here. I won't encourage it. That just live like this. And what was your question, by the way?
There's a couple of San Diego comedians that did side-by-side videos tearing apart you and Julian.
Okay.
And I went up to one of them at a show, and I just introduced myself, and I was like, Kane, I liked your stuff before, but I have to tell you, I really did not appreciate this.
Yeah.
And it was this moment where he was like, oh my God, I didn't realize that was a real person.
Yeah.
Never did another video like that again.
Got it. Yeah. Thank you, Jade. Yeah. So he got it.
I feel you when you're like, I want the trolls to can't I just
Yeah, like maybe they could see the value. Like maybe the troll will get the value and they'll learn social skills and how to create wealth. Right? They'll release the trauma now and have the awakening. The troll awakening, right? Like your new product, Troll Awakening. Right? Like the troll's not gonna have the awakening. They're not gonna have anything. And so that's where they're at and they like it. And then you start to realize like, bro, like, Owen, you got a pot belly. Why are you talking to the troll? I got a torn ACL. I got a pot belly. What you talking to troll for? Go do some cardio, motherfucker. You know what I mean, right? Like, you got time to go to a troll? You got time to cut the carbs, baby. You know? Yeah, you got time to talk to the troll? You got time to get in some slow-paced cardio. I'm trying to make a point here, right? It's like, if you got time to talk to the troll, then you have time to go do the cardio, right? Like, am I perfect? I'm this perfect being, physical specimen of mental, physical, and spiritual perfection, and now I just go around saving trolls? But somehow I thought this to myself, okay? Like, I say this now, and it makes so much sense, but hindsight is, it only took me till 44 years old, and I still have a troll-saving addiction.
The troll?
I still look at the troll, I still hear him talking, and I'm like, I'm gonna save you, Daniel. Okay, I'm kidding. But, okay, I'm joking. Yeah, I'm kidding. Yeah, he's like a special person. But the point is, like, it's one of these things where I still have troll-saving addiction. I still see the troll, and I feel like this passionate need to save the troll. It's like I see myself. You know, yeah, I see myself. It's like, it's me when I was the troll, and someone came and gave me a chance, and all the troll needs is a chance. Just give the troll a chance, you know, and you do it, but they're not like you. Like, they're not actually changing. It's not the same thing as you. And, you know, in the rare case it could be, but it's not. And so here's what you also learn. So what they teach in business, actually it was a mentor of mine named Edmund Pagan, aka David D'Angelo, teaches this in his program Get Altitude. He says that you should put your time, here's a couple things that he says that were interesting to me. He said, number one, don't hire people because you like them. Keep that out of your business. Hire people that can do the best job, and then what you do is make a charity. Make 1,000 times more money and give 10% away of it to charity if you really want to help people, but don't hire someone just because you like them. Another one that he said is that you should do charity, but with stars. So you find a star who's able to really let it land, who gets it, and then have a conversation with them, and then you see them taking action. And now there's an energetic exchange because you're seeing them taking action. And luckily, I've also done a decent amount of that too. I haven't only just been like, you know, the troll whisperer. I've also mentored stars too. And as a result of that, I have a number of people that are really famous and huge now that actually help me. And it's like kind of a cool ongoing thing that I have. So that's kind of a cool thing too. Like I was saying, you know, me helping out that guy with the video camera thing. I'll go help the right people that are on the up and up. I've just been lucky to do that. I've helped a lot of people that I think are about to blow up, and that's yielded dividends for me. So there's elements of that. So still go do charity and still go help people, but here's the way that you should think about it. If it's just raw, straight up charity, okay, here's your different paths. If you want to walk this like extreme spiritual path and be the troll whisperer, because you want to become like a monk type figure, right? Where literally as a discipline, you're just like, I don't care that you're not receiving this. I don't care that I'm enabling you, but I'm making a spiritual decision that I'm just gonna give and give and give and give, even if like I'm broke myself. Because maybe you're a monk, maybe you're like a kind of a spiritual being, like maybe like an Eckhart Tolle that sits on a park bench, and then you don't even have anything, but you go make like stick figures out of a tree and you just give it to people, you know, and that's like what you want to do. To be honest with you, like, I don't know, I'd say that's probably about as valid of a lifestyle as like the average lifestyle that a lot of people have. I mean, you know, it's another ride in the park. If that's something that you resonate with, there's people, I think, is it in India where like in the last part of their lives, even rich people will just go live in the streets? You heard about this? I think that's the thing, right? Am I wrong about that?
They go off and live in the mountains or...
Yeah, like a super rich person. Yeah, a super rich person's like in the last decade of their life and they just go live in the mountain or something. Yeah, like if that, what's that?
There's various kinds of things.
Various types of it. So yeah, so like if that's your thing and you want to go do that, I'm not trying to discourage you. So I'm speaking a bit more to a modern audience that is still engaging with society to a decent extent. You know, if you want to be, you know, at that level, like I want to take your course, okay? That is the Troll Whisperer course, and I'm going to pay for it. I'm curious about it. So that's you know, a life decision if you happen to want that, okay? If you happen to want to do that, but then at least you've consciously chosen what you're doing. You're not doing it because like you didn't feel valued except by your actions when you were a kid. Your parents only gave you love when you did things for them, and you didn't have love just for being you. So now you're just like in this weird codependent mental health loop, you know, mental health deficiency. And then now what you're doing is you're just playing that out, right? So one could be like a proactive, conscious spiritual path. Another is a codependent self-esteem issue that's just playing itself out on like a grand scale. Okay, you guys see the difference there? So that could be a choice. Now, for modern people, for those of us that are in a more modern lifestyle, what would be the correct answer there? The correct answer from a modern lifestyle would be 10% to charity, if you are ready to do that. And then what you would do is you still build. Now, why do you do 10% to charity? And you don't brag about it, you don't tell people, unless you feel that it's important to be a shining light, which could have its place. Well, why do you do that? Because there's a place for that. But why do you do that? Because you're not just in scarcity, right? You're actually one of those people who gives. So maybe you give 10% charity, 5% charity, 1% charity. In addition to that, what you do is you do nice, kind acts for stars, people. And what does a star mean? It doesn't mean someone who's like, LeBron, the up-and-coming LeBron James necessarily. It means someone who gets it, someone who you can actively see is letting it land. If they're letting it land and they're actually using what it is that you're saying. And then what I'd say is give back energy to the people who actually support you. Like I said, I had to make a realization, instead of trying to help the troll, go help out the person that took your program, bro. Go help out your staff who gave up a million other career paths to work with you. Go help out your children. You got kids, bro. I remember one time I had an ex-girlfriend that got borderline personality disorder, and I realized that, right? And when she borderlines have this thing they do is called splitting, okay? You can look this up. This is Amber Heard probably has this, although maybe she was just demonized, I'm not sure, but she seems to have it, but who knows? Borderline personality disorder is this thing where the person idealizes you and pedestalizes you, and they have a lot of fear of abandonment. And then later what they do is they have this thing called splitting. And splitting is this thing where they go from viewing as all good to all bad. And then usually when you guys break up, they go into this thing called self-trashing. And they start doing tons of drugs. They start hurting themselves. It's a real thing called borderline personality disorder. It's called BPD. I'd recommend you look it up. I actually think anybody should look that up for at least for 10 or 15 minutes at minimum. Because you could be dating somebody like this. You're like, it's like my soulmate. Okay, so be aware of that. So I remember when one of my exes did that, and then she looked demonically possessed. She started self-trashing. So I went to a coach of mine, and I'm like, she's self-trash. I didn't call it self-trashing, but I'm like, she's doing all these drugs. She's hurting herself. And what he said to me, he goes, Owen, you have children, brother. You're a father. She's gone, bro. Why are you talking about this person? She's not here anymore. You are a father. Every minute that you're spent talking about, how this girl's all whacked out. And I was with that girl for a while, and I love her dearly, but she has BPD. I'm not God. I'm not a psychotherapist. I can't fix somebody with BPD. A licensed professional would have a hard enough time fixing somebody with BPD. You think I'm going to fix somebody with BPD? But I kept talking about it and obsessing over it. People with codependence often obsess over fixing somebody who's damaged because it's a way to keep playing that out. And he says, Owen, you've got children. Why are you, she is gone. Your kids need you. And so, so who should you be pouring into? Your children, your long-term partner, your staff, your boss who hires you, if you have a boss that hired you, clients, and long-term deep friendships. If I've got again, we have Gaetan and James back there. How do you feel, if instead of helping to grow what we're doing, I'm trying to coach the troll? I'm trying to fix the BPD person. You're like, I got love for you, bro. I got love for you, Owen. You know what I mean, right? I got love for what you're doing. I love you, bro. Is the way to get your attention to start acting out in a BPD cell trash? Is the way to get your attention to troll you? Because I'm sitting here helping you. Where's the love? Right? So this was sort of a thing that I realized is focus on the people, give a percentage to charity, because in reality, if I give to charity, I can do better for them because I'm more aligned. If I help some stars, I can give more to them because I'm more aligned. But from there, from that need that you have, also realize, for me, example, doing free events, that's kind of my personal version of a charity. A lot of people can't believe that. They just can't believe that that's possible. And someday I may not do them. Someday the whole thing just be upsell gangbang. If I want to do that, I could do that. It's a business model. I never did it. Maybe someday. That's my right. I'm not making excuses for that. But I've done free tours for 2 decades largely as a charity. That is 20 years. And filming them, putting them out, running this thing until it's so late that there's no one even here. Okay? He's running so late. No, the room is empty now. The video looks weird. Did anyone show up? This dude just speaking to 15 people? Because it's the middle of the night. But I enjoy it and putting it out. So that's my version of the charity. It was a joyful and fun thing for me to run an event till it's so late that the room empties out. That's fun for me. So I get that done. What does that do for me? It's that charity, beautiful moment. I walk away feeling, even though physically tired, it gives me a sense of purpose. It gives me a reason to keep moving, right? And it expands me. So I go do that, and then there's a beauty in that. But that's the healthy version of giving where there's a limit. And then there's the bad version of giving, where what you're doing instead is you're in this kind of mode where you're finding these black holes and you're just pissing resources into a black hole and someone who's not getting it. And by the end of it, like Kobe Bryant says, you eventually hit your breaking point. You eventually lovingly say, I can't keep doing this. And then they have resentment and contempt. And all that it did was enable them. And in the end, you're just getting some high vibe buzz out of it. So what I learned over time, if there was a clear message here, it would be to recognize that there's prospects and suspects. And there's people who just don't get it. Getting around high-level people, frankly, like I said, like the average really high-level person that I met, it's probably about 10K per male friend. But that was because it was either from a party that I did or from a networking group that I went to. Like getting plugged into better circles with better people, they're so rare that it's hard to even meet people like that and get their time. But when you're like that and somebody else is like that, there's incredible synergy and then you want to be friends. And when you have a group of friends that are prospects, not suspects, givers, not takers, or people that have like a fair amount of giving to taking, then what winds up happening is now you have lifelong friends and like the kind of people who like you could confide in, and if you fell out, don't go make the weird video on the internet. Yeah. Right? Like, like at a certain point, like if you've got a bunch of people that made weird videos about you on the internet or start randomly recording you or just doing weird stuff like that or making up stories about you, just making up BS, you've got to ask yourself a question like, who's the common denominator here? Who's choosing to bring those people into your inner circle? You got to start asking yourself questions like that. And I've had to ask myself questions like that. So, normal mentally healthy people don't run and do that stuff. That's not what a normally healthy, emotionally healthy person does. That's the maybe more sophisticated version of the lady beating the kid in the Walmart while eating Cheetos and the kid's puking that I joked about earlier. That you're supposed to go to the Virgin Lounge to reduce the number of. Okay?
So I've actually gotten a quantitative EEG done, and a lot of these things we think of as personality disorders, you can see as brain waves. Mm-hmm. People who they'll take a statistical, let's say 50,000 people, and then they'll do your brainwave, and they'll test you against all of this to see where you're skewed one way or the other. And what neurofeedback is, and I don't know if it's effective for autism like they claim, is that they bring your brainwaves back into a statistical standard deviation where most people reside. So you can communicate with most people, right? Some people are too many standard deviations outside because of genetics or whatever, and they can't be helped.
Self-informed,
right?
trauma, all that.
No. It's even more like an edge case, like genetic. Like I've never met your son, but I don't know what it's like to, I've seen movies about autism, but they claim that neurofeedback can help. But again, some things are pre-environmental, pre-epigenetic. So they're actually genetic. Like the way I'd finalize this is that I love Jillian's work. I think that the top-down approach, if you want to talk like Darwin and the vagus nerve, top-down's huge. But so much of us as human beings is bottom-up. Yoga, movement, Tai Chi. Think about people, prisoners of war, torture. They regulate from the bottom up, and it actually re-regulates that. So this is great top-down work. A lot of what's more effective and is suppressed, at least in the U.S., like Bessel van der Kolk's work, is all bottom-up. And so you can go pay for a pill at the pharmacy, but neurofeedback is prohibitively expensive because what it's doing is it's doing bottom-up work. Yoga, dance, theater, choir, it all kind of hits the limbic brain, but this isn't taught. And a pill is a horrible thing. It's a horrible way to live. My mother has been on benzos for like 30 years.
Yeah, something happened to Jordan Peterson with that.
And God help him with his, vegans, meat diets, whatever works for him, great. But at the same time, I think he's playing with fire, and he needs to consult professionals because each one of us is dealing with anyway. So I think if there's anything the work I want to do is bottom up. You can't make a lot of money doing neurofeedback because it's not well funded. And to close the thread from yesterday, microdosing with psychotherapy is being done by the MAPS governmental to use MDMA as a corrective emotional experience. I don't know if you've seen like I don't know if you've seen like really toxic people take MDMA. They're unrecognizable. They're like, oh my god, like isn't it great that we're all friends? I love everybody. Like
You don't need to be doing that.
This is for like the most bitter toxic people. MDMA can be a corrective experience, but most of like the '60s culture kind of brought psychedelics and all this into like Burning Man and all this, and like God bless anybody that gets a value out of it. Most of it is so like what do you cut they cut it with some other shit which is gonna fuck you up, like fentanyl or whatever, but it's cut so bad and the experience is so festival like that you're playing with fire. You're literally shooting bullets into your gun and like hoping one doesn't like hurt you or kill.
I've had a lot of friends
Right.
that I can't talk to anymore.
So-
It's so weird now that they go do this stuff and they become so weird. I can't even have conversations.
So the legacy of the '60s with Timothy Leary and everything got fucked through commercialism, and now people do ayahuasca and MDMA and all this stuff for fun, and they fry their brains. But the original therapeutic use has been all but lost, and now is like reintroduced through governmental like very like controlled studies. Might be around 20 years from now, but like I think there's a lot of like great stuff that you guys are doing. There's a lot of great bottom up work like neurofeedback and things that re-regulate the body so the brain gets the signals it needs. Because to cap it off, unless you re-regulate these brainwaves because something went wrong in childhood, trauma, TBI, PTSD, whatever, you'll constantly be either seeking emotional regulation from a device, a substance, a person, and there's no point at which it'll stop. There's no like point at which you'll get old enough and now you're mature. It's a death sentence, and I think that kind of goes back to what you were saying about prospects and suspects, because some people can see the win-win, and some people, their brain stops them, from doing.
This is why I had to go look at channels like this, was because I had to make it real to myself. Like, maybe they're not going to get it. Like, imagine me as a coach where I don't give up on people. Like, I just don't give up, and I have to realize like maybe there is something outside my pay grade. Like maybe my little, high vibes. You know what I mean? But even that, and I'm a fan. But maybe the real life, sure, yeah.
Jesus Christ, bring him in, man. If we
Well-
follow like this,
Well, if he comes back,
he's gonna be
let him
involved.
let him do his thing, right? But but just the book itself, I even know people that have like BPD that go to church and BPD's still there. Okay, so the point being,
The word made up by psychology to make a lot of words,
I got people in my life that have BPD. They love the church, bro. And the BPD's still there, and it's just becomes a
What's BPD?
it becomes a charade, where then they can use the fact that now they go to church to sort of ignore that they have a problem. So it's
Alcohol, they do the drugs, they do the games, anything.
I think you missed what he said, because it's explain to him briefly why that won't work. The short version.
So the DSM is
Barring some miracle healing, bro. Who knows, right? But share a little bit about like as you said.
okay. So
cell
there's
doesn't form.
there's genetics, there's epigenetics. If you're genetically a statistical anomaly, you're either going to be feral, you're going to be Helen Keller, you're going to be like mute, you're going to be too many chromosomes. These are genetics. These are not epigenetics. Epigenetics is like you were within like a normal bounds of like healthy child. You can see, you have all your senses and your brain's working, and then the environment is signaling either positive or negative growth, right? You either get stunted or you grow, and that's epigenetic. So there are inflection points at which if you don't get something when you need it, you're fucked forever. And people like this because there are 60-year-olds who act like children, who they either are predatory upon their family units and.
They didn't evolve.
It's okay. I mean, you can.
More deeply, brother. This isn't self help. Like me, I'm like the ultimate like self helpy woo woo guy. Like,
Growth mindset.
bro,
So
are you joking or are you serious?
No, neuroplasticity.
Okay, bro, I can't tell if you're joking or serious.
I'm serious.
so think of it this way.
Okay, listen. You're not understanding, bro. Like this is so he's like he's like plasticity, growth mindset, right? Jesus, right? You're seeing that and like that's beautiful, bro. I literally can't tell if you're joking or not. But if you're like here, just come to the front for like 2 seconds if you don't mind. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, but it's not meant to. But it's not
good to meet you, sir.
But it's
How are you?
yeah, but it's not meant as a debate. So just say like from your perspective, like. You're like, could there be, could we beat this with, say, a growth mindset or neuroplasticity or church or something, right? That's kind of like what you're saying?
What I heard was people have a certain amount of potential from 0 to 7 years of age. And if they have significant impacts, including, maybe they are injured, maybe spanking, maybe like children they're sensitive at birth, man. And they should be taken care of with wonderful, unconditional love. And some people are not good parents. And maybe that, especially with their long-term, their life-term potential of what they'll achieve in their entire lifetime can be impacted by those first 7 years. Would that be accurate?
That's what he's saying, yeah.
Fuck.
So what you were asking about, here, give it a sec. So what you were saying, because
I was ready to walk out the room, man.
No, because there's a reason that I wanted to, I actually really appreciated what you said, I'll tell you why. So when I would tell some of my friends in the self-help thing as I was kind of digging into this, because like you have to remember that like what's the whole reason why I would keep digging and trying to fix, because I'm like you, as you're sitting back there like growth mindset, neuroplasticity, meditation, like we got this, right? Like Joe Dispenza, right? Like I'm about all that
cancer.
Stuff. You see my point, right? So I'm thinking,
how do you cancer with?
Well, the point being is like just give it a sec, okay? Okay, give it a moment, give it a second. I can't tell if you're trolling me or if you're serious, but
life sometimes feels like a cartoon,
Okay, no. Well, I love your energy. Okay, so what he's saying here, what he's getting at is like this is actually like the most incredible conversation that you're seeing here, because when I would start to like learn about this, like part of the reason why I got in the trap of trying to fix was I was like no, like because I'm fully drinking the self-help Kool-Aid, right? So I'm like no, neuroplasticity, meditation, spiritual growth, that kind of stuff. Like they just need to meditate, and so I'm literally, because I'm seeing what that did for me. I'm somebody lightly autistic. I come from serious damage, like barely knew what planet I was on, crazy depression, suicide. So I see that work for me. So I'm thinking if somebody else could be introduced to these modalities, that other people will get the same result. I think that for 98% of people, they'll get that result. I don't think at least people that I deal with, at least, like the people that come in my programs are largely not people with like a collapsed self from age 4, because they probably don't make it here in the first place. So I don't even get to meet those people. But then sometimes I do, and then what winds up happening, and you're someone who's kind of like in a middle ground of that, where like you had some rough stuff, but then you're like really self-educating and really bouncing back. So you're one of those people that are bouncing back. Well, I'll get to you in a sec. I actually want to hear what you're saying. Yeah. But so what happens is basically, so then I start seeing, I'm like, wait a minute, like this is past my pay grade, right? Now, the problem is if I say that, now you got every derper who's like, oh, like no wonder, like they didn't go out, they didn't do the work, they didn't work on anything, they didn't build their business. Like, oh, it's like something that happened when I'm 5. That's why I'm broke and I'm celibate and like, right? Like, no, bro, that's just called another condition, lazy, okay? Victim consciousness and lazy. You're just lazy, okay? You're not a special snowflake. You're not the guy who got messed up at 7. You're just lazy. So that's like the majority of people that would hear that message. That's why, knowing that, I've had success in helping people with the modalities that I've used. But the problem is that you get some people who I would see are in that mode. Like, as you said, they're just not capable of finding the win-win. Like, they don't even know what that is. And they'll literally just like, they're running without even a core self, basically mimicking and miming what a full-on humanity looks like, but they don't quite have that because they need to outregulate that and outsource that. And they're incapable of dealing with you in that win-win way, and then you keep thinking like, no, like, I'll give them a job and show them meditation and get them, we'll go skiing and they'll be in nature, right? And it's like, no, like they're not. And there's nothing that and there's a humility in saying like, I've helped millions of people and it's worked, but there's a certain small chunk where it's just outside my pay grade. And what's ironic is that now you've got a big chunk of people that hear that and go, I'm the special one where it can't work for me. Like, no, homie, you're just lazy. You ain't that guy, bro. You're lazy, okay? It wouldn't work. You're not a special snowflake. because if you're even watching this, you're probably one of the people that could learn from it because you wouldn't have made it this far through. But what I'm saying is like, yeah, I've seen that. It's just very, very heavy. So I actually really liked what you said here because like even my buddy Marvin, you know, I was talking to him about like how people can have this, and he's like, bro, meditation, like, and I'm like, no, you don't get it. Like this isn't like that, bro. Like this is, you know, like even for guys that are the pros in this, like they can't usually fix it. They can ameliorate it, but they can't even usually fix it. So it's like heavy stuff. Any other quick ideas? Then yeah, are you cold by the way?
No, the synergy is fantastic.
Okay.
We're combining
You're
ideas.
shaking a little bit. You're just really excited?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay, yeah.
Energy. I can feel enlightenment coming upon us all.
Yeah. yeah.
This guy's gonna make you Buddha, man. God bless.
See you, man. Yeah. Okay, any other thoughts? That was great. Well, thank you. Give him a hand too, guys. Thank you so much. Yeah.
You're doing self-help. You're doing top-down work, and I think that reaches much of the population. A lot of people, I think, are being underserved because psychopharmacology has a death grip on mental health in the West. And there's some people that are trying to find help through Sedona and, ayahuasca and everything. That's great, good for them. I wish them the best, and I hope it actually helps them. But for most of us, we're all equipped with the same brainstem, the same nervous system, the same hormones. Meditation, yoga, choir, moving with people, neurofeedback, anything to all natural immunity. It's kind of the best we got because the cards are stacked really far against everybody from being healthy. And that's really all I have to say about it. You guys are doing great work, and bottom-up technology is our, like yoga have been around for thousands of years, and it's because it actually works to regulate those brain states, as Joe Dispenza puts it. So I think it's a great area of interest. I don't know how many people are really interested in it. I don't know how much Marcel dips into that with his work, but obviously it's a area of focus and passion for me. So
thank you. You guys give me a hand. That's very good. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. Him and I have been friends for about 4 years. If you might remember an old video that he came up on stage and I was giving him some crap, and it was like 4 years ago, and it's been, he's progressing like anybody, and he takes more time, but he progresses, and it's just steady, and steady wins the race, right? Yeah, and what I would say is like even on my end, like at a certain point, like we all have to have that epiphany that you don't have these like godlike powers that you think. So even for me, like I think a lot of the approach that I took was like a lot of it is just getting back to like a lot of the OG stuff. Like even if I'm not like doing the exact OG stuff, but like there's a certain audience that I probably aim to serve that I can serve at a 10 out of 10, which is like maybe a little bit more gangster of an approach to things, like a little bit more hardcore, like, like for me, it was like, I had to realize at a certain point, like, yes, I can maybe get a significant other who like has like deep intimacy needs and wants to like connect in like this certain way. But then at another point, I'm like, I'm not really built to just sit there doing that. I don't love that. I like to have fun. And if I meet somebody who wants to just go have fun with me, I'll go do that. And I've since met people who want to go do that with me, and we have a lot of fun. And then otherwise, if that person that I'm special to me doesn't want to have fun, I'll go get 10 people who do. Because people always have fun for that first honeymoon period, don't they? And that sounds shallow, right? That sounds like a shallow thing, like, oh, it's shallow. Like when it gets real, you leave. No, that's called valuing your life. If someone doesn't want to have fun with you, give them the space to go fix that and deal with that on their own. You don't need to become their coach. And that was my problem, is I try to become the coach and I don't want to give up, and I become the coach and become the coach and become the coach. It's like, it doesn't work, bro. It's not going to work. And so that was like my realization, is like, there are fun people out there that want to go have fun with me. Well, in the same way with my coaching, I've moved off of like trying to help people that are like with what you've dealt with, because you have stepped up, I'm down to coach you. Does that make sense? But my strength, it is true. It's not like, just because I came from like autism, suicidal depression, that kind of stuff, I am like people who have that in some ways, but for some reason there is something different about me in other ways, which was that I was aggressively looking for a pathway out. I wanted it like I wanted oxygen to breathe, and I was willing to do whatever it took to find a way out. And when I see people who have these problems but are not looking for a way out, but rather they're looking for somebody to enable them, that's what I've experienced. So they're like, no, I'm like you, the suicidal depression when you're younger, all that stuff. Like we're like the same. But I'm like, well, wait. But I wasn't looking for somebody to emotionally regulate me. I was looking to solve this and then to come together as two people that solved it. And so I've realized like I've actually kind of returned more recently to a more OG type of approach in the sense of like a little more swag in the videos and a little bit more like almost trying to push away people who are maybe not ready to just crush it now. And because I think that like in the same way that there's not enough people who are serving properly to like the bottom up, as you said, there's also not enough people that are like willing to just be raw and be like, yo, like there's a group of you out there that are just ready to smash it now. Let's just go, let's just leave the others behind and let's just go up. And so like, I'm kind of moving a little bit more towards that where I'm just like, I'm leaving that behind. Like I'm like, for y'all who like were like suffering in like severe excruciating pain that I burned down most of my career, just, like you have a whole training with like say 12 people and there's that one person that's just not all there. And then you just sit there, but you're not like that though, because you are different. You want to know why? You want to know why you're different? Because you always come into the positive attitude and you're always looking to fit. You're moving more slowly, but look at even just the way give yourself credit. Look at the way that you even talked about everything that you've researched, your thorough understanding of it. You're digging out, you're finding a way out. You're not looking for me to enable you. You come at me in a very gratitude-based, appreciative, win-win way. You are win-win with me. That's why I talk to you. You're 100% win-win. I'm not talking about people like you. I'm talking about people that are not like that win-win. I'm talking about like every time I see you, you're clawing and fighting, but there's people that are not clawing and fighting. They just are faking, and then they're trying to get you to enable them to serve a external validation session. Yeah.
And I don't think there's hope. I'm not saying you can help those people, but I'm also saying it's not their fault.
Yeah.
I'm also saying maybe there's no hope for that segment because that's what a parent's supposed to do. If the parent doesn't step up and you're like, oh yeah, I got what I needed, you're literally going to spend the rest of your life. Can you do it for me? Can you just do it all for me? And like that's literally, how the consciousness is oriented towards the world, because that need wasn't met by the parent. And so I'm saying sometimes there isn't hope for the narcissistic parent, the internet troll, for the person who didn't get their needs met and now is like cutting themselves and self-destructive, and the person who wants
drugs.
Yeah, I mean, all these things are, whether it's a substance, a process, a person, you're using something outside yourself to regulate yourself, and it's insatiable. And the final person is the person who wants everything done for them, because these are all failures in developmental psychology, and don't wear yourself down. Sometimes it's hopeless. I'm not saying that it's their fault, and sometimes I've been a hopeless person.
And what would be and yet you've come out of it, but you've also done that yourself, right? What would you say would be the best way to serve somebody like that?
Tough love.
Well, I'd say that therapy in the West is a failure. Psychopharmacology is a crutch. Exercise, the reason the military actually does.
What I mean is like me. I'm not the military.
Yeah.
I think what you're saying to me is just wishing the best.
First thing is like start off every seminar. Hey guys, this isn't therapy. That's like the first thing to say, because then you're gonna snap them out of that. Because you're the talking head. You're on YouTube. You're bigger than life, and you're just like, sorry, this is not therapy. And you're like, oh, okay, well, I'm here now, and I'm actually like, going to take the pain of what's around me because I'm not looking to you to solve everything. That's the first thing I would do, because then you'll just like get rid of that population if they don't want to be helped. And then, because in the last few years you've been talking a lot about the cluster B disorders. I think you're going to like muddy the waters of your teaching by.
Actually, I think you might have zoned in on it. I might be wrong, but I think I've just touched on it here or there. But I think that it's spoken to you deeply because you're into it. I don't mention cluster. I just mentioned cluster B here or there. It's not like it hasn't become like a major topic.
I mean, I was on boot camp. A couple people kind of chimed into it. A couple people were like, "Oh yeah, they kind of know something, want to know." But the point is that you have a very specific teaching. I think you're muddying the waters and not diluting, but like obscuring your message by mentioning those things, because those are like statistical anomalies. They have nothing to do with like what you said in those videos 10 years ago, which was like Batman Begins, Dark Knight Rises. You're broken, you're beaten down. You strengthen yourself. That's a message. You strengthen yourself from weakness. That's a message. The other stuff is just confusing. You made 4 videos. Hard case newbie, difficulty with kids who didn't get put in sports, emotional regulation, not relying on pharmaceutical addictions. The Dark Knight Rises one. I can't remember the other one.
The
But,
memory on him, by the way.
well, I mean, this is why I'm here. This is why I'm here 10 years later, or whatever. Because otherwise, you would have been like any of the other guys on YouTube. Because nobody else made videos like that. The people who made videos like that were too saccharine, or too harsh, or too like in the psychology sphere. But you kind of hit this sweet spot where you're talking about, getting stronger, hard times, emotional regulation, not depending on pharmaceuticals. You kind of like threaded the needle, and it got through to me because I was in that in that pocket or whatever. Therapy's great. You go to therapy, you can talk about things for hours. It engages the prefrontal cortex. The limbic system does not get touched. You walk out with the same problems you walked in. But it's important to understand that most therapists are garbage because it's by design. It's not their fault. Sorry if you're a therapist. It was somebody.
Oh, no, I'm not a therapist.
Okay.
Why is that?
The reason is that so a lot of the institutions we have, school, work, et cetera, are from the 19th century, like sitting in rows, all this garbage, sitting and talking, like a talking
A
tour.
great word for garbage is well-intentioned. Well-intentioned.
At the time, it may have served a purpose. I'm not going to say it was entirely well-intentioned, but it was a relic from a bygone era, and it's inseminated into our current, So talk therapy engages your prefrontal cortex. That's not where the problem is. The problem is as you develop as a human being, the back part, the bottom part of the brain, is where your nervous response. You fight, freeze, you fawn, you flight. That's where that all is. You react in an instant. That's where the problem is. The prefrontal cortex, I got beaten up, I had bad relationships. You talk about it for hours, nothing happens. So that is mainstream therapy, and it's by design, and it dovetails with psychopharmacology, which is a corrosive and destructive half measure, which is being sold with these wonderful,
It also removes litigation, right? So it's the safe spot. You can't litigate against it because it's like known as like the thing.
Yeah.
The other thing is, you remember I talked yesterday about great things being captured. Do you guys remember that? The idea of capture. So interesting point there. But keep going.
So I mean, psychopharmacology is a way to keep people functional in a dysfunctional system, and you don't want to rely on benzos and.
And by the way, I want to be clear here because we're putting this on a platform. We're not giving medical advice here. No. You're giving an analogy. You're not giving medical advice.
My mother was on
Yeah.
benzos for 30 years.
You're giving an analogy of what you have personally seen. He's not claiming to have read a double-sided blind study. He's not claiming to give a generalization. He's giving his opinion as an analogy as one person, not giving medical advice. Okay, keep going.
And so the best thing you can do for yourself is researching natural immunity, but also doing yoga, choir, theater, expand like a lot of the expansion work that you guys are doing. But so there's something called psychodrama, and so let's say I think the work that Julian and Jeff are doing is great. That there are trauma researchers that do this kind of work. So I would take you and I would say, take this chair and desk and all that, and put your father and mother in the room, because the way that they exist is spatially. So you'd put them in the room, and then you basically bring out all that stuff in a three-dimensional space, and then you manipulate it. And that's kind of how it's oriented. Your mother and your father are like oriented they're in your head, and talking about it is never going to get you anywhere. I mean, it'll help, and you can have epiphanies, but if you really want to like work with it, it's more like the brain is an organ that you need to work with in a very specific way, like a muscle, and it has its own logic. The bicep has a logic of being torn down and built up. The brain has a brainstem, limbic system, prefrontal cortex, and you need to hit those bottom parts, or you're just going to be talking about your problems forever. And I think that's what a lot of the bitching and the people that you've tried to help and they just talk about it endlessly is what it is because talking will never get it solved. What'll get it solved is a brain scan, is a quantitative EEG, takes your brain waves, put it on a pattern. You see what your brain's doing, and you can make certain inferences and make a certain kind of intervention. Barring that, again, yoga, choir, things that put you in sync with people, like singing with people, being in theater, trying on different roles, like doing drama. These are things that affect that part of the brain,
Yeah.
I've kind of gone on.
I think it's fantastic. And like, hey, now you know what you're dealing with when you had that significant other that complains all the time and you thought you're going to fix it. Right? Give me a hand, guys. That's awesome, bro. Yeah. Like, you're in there like, I'm going to fix this. Like that. If this is all overwhelming, that's the best thing you take from it is like, that's what you were up against. Like, when you had your ex and you're like, we're going to get it on the same page. Like, you needed like brain scans, like, right? And you're just sitting there like, we're going to reason with this and like talk it out. So, that's what I realized. That's what I realized over time was like, and this is really the perfect cap off to this topic, isn't it? Like, what he said kind of for the last 8 of us that are here at 2 a.m. or something, did that kind of pull together to you a lot of what it was that I was saying? Like, I'm getting pulled into, like the example I gave, like, the DM, and I'm like, he's like me, like he just needs a hand up and he's going to be great. Right. And, or like that person who is like getting angry that you like did a product launch because he feels like you're escaping the pit that he's in and that you're not going to sit in the pit with him, even though you could help more people. But if you help more people, you wouldn't be helping just him or her. And it's this thing where then you start to cater to those people or identify with them, and you're not realizing this is so outside your pay grade. And that's not what you need to be doing, and not be needing to try to fix people at that point because you're not qualified to. And I'm sitting here as somebody who spent decades trying to do that, and I'm not qualified to. And, a powerful experience for me was even hearing you talk right now and me having just reflections in my mind right now of just how utterly unqualified I was to be of service to people in that mode. And it even actually, what you said actually made me think to myself, like part of me says, maybe I should study those modalities endlessly and do it. But then part of me says like, that's maybe a path that you might be fascinated by. And then there's people that are built like that, but that I'm kind of just built to like I have that element that you said, like those 4 videos and like that kind of like, it's intended to be an inspiring message. I have that, but I also have kind of like a sort of like a almost like a swashbuckling hero type of message that is kind of lost, that you don't really see a lot of in personal growth, right? Like you don't see a lot of that anymore.
With, what is it called? MDs, who focus in psychopharmacology, real, honest, like rugged people who are making forward movement. For like decades, and then having pushback because it's defunded, then nobody wants to fund these other modalities. They will complain about the things that you're actually doing, marketing, sales, monetization. All these things are like haram to like a class of academics who are like, we're doing good work. We did the research. We did the peer-reviewed studies. Why should we have to sell anything? There's a disconnect where the people that are doing neurofeedback and doing all these interventions, they think monetizing things destroys it. The current example in the U.S. is ketamine. Ketamine has been shown to make some kind of progress with certain things, and they're working on it. But the monetization of it means that instead of being there for an hour, taking your dosage, somebody's talking to you, doing therapy, you're left alone in a room with your pill, and you're fucking tripping. Sorry, you're having a trip, and that is not a therapeutic use of ketamine. This is just one example. You could be like MDMA or any of these things. It could have extreme therapeutic value, but the people who are doing the research, who are academics, clinicians, PsyDs, MDs, they hate sales and marketing, and they refuse to find the way forward by commercializing their research, and their work.
Got it. Yeah, and then they're just further engaging with that same mentality that I was talking about. And yeah, so and catering to the lowest common denominator there too. So that's what I'm saying is like, I had to make a realization in my own life of like, you know, do you remember I talked yesterday about realizing like, do you remember I said that when you're really good at doing audits, if I look at myself, I don't just say, oh, I'm a good public speaker or I'm a good, social skills teacher or things like that. I say to myself, like, what are the things that are so utterly unique or different that it becomes one of one? I mentioned the idea of like not having a fear of death as being a thing that could make you into one of one as a simple example. I was talking about that. So me realizing like I can help people like that to a 7 to, at my best, a 9 out of 10 level. But unless it's a gazillion out of 10, I shouldn't be doing it. And so, where can I be the gazillion out of 10? Who else can do the kind of coaching that I could do out at a bar club? Who else can do the kind of coaching that I could do with the really kind of like, rather than just sitting around like being sad or things like that, but actually doing the extreme thriving stuff. And that's what I realized is that like where I'm strongest is in teaching a psychology of extreme thriving. So people like Vakinen would look at me saying like, you could teach a regular guy to be a millionaire. And he'd say, oh, that's crazy, that's impossible. Like just having base level emotional balance is as good as it's gonna get. And he says that in some of his videos, by the way, and I still love him, I don't care. But at the same time, like my 11-year-old kid is a crack public speaker. So I refuse to believe that, I've watched guys like yourself learn to go out to bars and clubs. I've watched, I have countless clients and friends that became super famous, multimillionaires, smash clubs, smash dating, smash social skills, had incredible spiritual progression, things like that, huge amounts of energy, passion. So it's like, rather than me trying to like fix that area, I should really be focusing on people that want to thrive at the most extreme level. And if that's viewed as a self-styled guru or anything like that, I don't care. Because at the end of the day, like that is what I love. That's the result that I most consistently produce. And so what I try to do is find people, either A, if it's someone who's hard up, then it's someone like you, where you're a star in a different way. Like look at his memorization of my videos, like from way back in the day, memorization of all these different modalities, the work that you put into it, your understanding of it. And the fact that you, like when he comes out with me on a program to go hit up a club, could you imagine how hard that is for him and how harder gains to come? Because, for you, like when you talk, like you shake, you know what I mean? Like you tangibly shake when you talk. Like this is like real. And like people would look at you and be like, oh yeah, like just shake it off, bro, whatever. It's like, no, bro, like I understand that. I don't know what you experience specifically, but I can see what's going on roughly. And so I know how heavy that is for you. And that's why I'm so proud of you in the fact that you actually jumped into that kind of thing. You're one of the few people coming from that background where you did jump into that kind of thing and had the courage to do so and just continue to progress. But what I would also say is like, yeah, I want to be around stars who either A, it's somebody who's low down, but who's like, I want to thrive, and not doing so in an exercise in narcissism or ego, so to speak, and then we'll have that. But doing so because why not? Like life can be a playground. Why not go have some money? Like, why not drive a cool car? Why not live in a cool place? Why not date some cool people? And it's like, oh no, but like, all that could truly be hoped for is like, just to live a normal life and think that's fine. Because a lot of like high level thriving is viewed as extreme ego, extreme narcissism, and sort of like selling the dream. But the people who would say that have never actually been around it and seen the people who come through those programs and seen the fact that it is possible. And they also fail to acknowledge that life also can be fun. Like, why does it have to be that life is just this like hellhole? And this is what I'm saying. Like yesterday, like when I would make jokes about things like, someone doesn't want to have fun with me, like I don't want to talk to them. It's, it's not that I am trying to be mean. It's that I've just realized like, I'm just not good at this. Like, I'm just not good at this. If somebody's in my close inner circle, they don't want to have fun. Like, I'm just not good at that. Like, I'm just not. I'm good at having fun. Right? Like anybody around me for a long time, it's like, I want to have fun. And that's what I'm good at, is having fun and being happy. And I'm good at just traveling and adventures and being happy and saying sky's the limit and saying anything's possible and doing it. I want to be really, really great at loving my life and just doing fun things and having adventures and showing that to people and saying that there's an audience out there that are capable of achieving that. And I believe that you are one of those people, by the way. In fact, I know you are. I wouldn't even be talking to you because I don't waste my motherfucking time anymore. So if I'm talking to you, I know for a fact that you can do that too. You are one of those people, and you're different from some of those people that you have probably seen in a lot of pain. You are different from them, by the way. You really are. You really are. I promise you. I really, really do, bro. I promise you, you are very different because you want it. Like you're clawing for it, you know? And everybody learns at their own rate. And with that, I'm going to wrap up this incredible event that we've had together for everybody up late, this last couple of us. And you guys are the hardcore people. And I want to thank you guys very much. So thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate it.